That would be for maybe for knocking and so on, but when you add in that kind of oil, because something is wrong.
Send it to a mechanic. All right. So let's get started, guys. Today we're going to talk about Ohm's law and circuits, and then we're going to talk about we're going to start laws and regulations pertaining to lamps. Then I'm going to take you guys out, show you guys how to do slope with the aimer, set up the aimer, and do aiming. Okay. All right. How many of you guys have had to fix a rodent issue for an electrical problem? Okay. If you have, do yourself a favor. Order yourself a roll of Honda rodent tape. Part number is 4019-2317. It's about $40 to $60 per roll. Why am I telling you this? Because if you fix the car with rodent damage, it's going to happen again. Okay? Because if they already ate at it once, they're going to fucking eat at it again. So how do you do that? This tape actually has something embedded in the tape that pulls an odor that keeps them or repels them away. Okay, so if you guys do a repair, that's a good tape to use. Okay? So I thought I'd put it up there for you guys.
Sometimes we could come back to the same spot that you...
They're going to come back, okay? And most wiring looms now have soybean in them. Okay, so that's why they are attracted to them. Here's a couple of tools that I mentioned yesterday. This one's the fuse saver, or the circuit protector. Okay, that's the master kit. You can buy it from Snap-on. Blue Point sells one. We also have it. I think it's like $200. I love that shit. It's great. And the one over there on the right is a fuse buddy. Does anybody have a fuse buddy? No. Okay, if you don't have a fuse buddy, when we go outside, I'm going to show you guys an adapter that plugs directly into the fuse socket and just goes right into your voltmeter. Okay, so then you can get an amperage reading directly from the socket using your DV-OM. Okay, so you don't have to go and buy that particular tool. Right? By the way, if you guys are trying to buy some tools, the school does offer tools. We try to give you guys the best price available, so that way we can help you guys out. All right, so.
That's what I didn't buy the way I thought.
Oh.
I'm waiting to see.
You got to talk to Candy in the front. She'll take care of you guys. Okay, so electricity diagnostics and repairs are tough since the flow of electricity cannot be observed with the naked eye. So yesterday we saw that using a voltmeter, we can measure potential difference between one point and another point. Is that true? Okay, you guys did voltage drop test yesterday, right? Yeah. Okay, did you guys see how easy it is to set that test up and run it? Mm-hmm. Right? Relatively easy. Okay? So electricity always works in the same way and must always follow the same laws of physics. Electricity is not going to change just because you have a European car. Is that true? Okay, most people say, oh shit, that's a Beamer, I'm not going to work on it, it's different.
What about the network system?
It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Same. There's either going to be Lin, CAN, slow CAN, fast CAN, 29-bit. That's the only difference. They usually run 29 instead of an 11-bit. So instead of it being 78, it's going to be 81 at the beginning.
No, software is made the same.
No software is made the same.
That's the problem. And the people who does it and don't get those codes corrupted. And then what you do on those codes.
No, but now you're talking computer programming. Yeah. I'm talking circuitry.
Okay.
Yeah. So if let's say we plug in a scanner, and I'm looking at a throttle position sensor. I can look at a BMW and I can look at a Chevy.
Yeah.
I can look at a Ferrari and I can look at a Rolls Royce, and they're going to be identical.
As long as you have the scan.
As long as you know the information.
Looking
right? If I'm looking at data pin, okay, what should I expect to see on a closed throttle if it's not electronic throttle? I told you guys this number many times already. Half a volt.
Yep.
Right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who the manufacturer is. Right? Doesn't matter. It's going to be half a volt.
Stick shift.
Doesn't matter. Half a volt. Closed throttle.
I told you about them, yeah.
So
93.
Those are probably going to be about 7/10 of a volt. Because I've seen it in the manual. That's a switch. Yeah, I'm talking
TPS.
I'm talking TPS sensor.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
when we're talking about a switch, it's open or closed.
Okay.
That's all it's going to give you. So a sensor is different. Okay? So that's what we're referring here. What we're trying to see is everything's going to be the same no matter what particular car you're dealing with. Bless you. So yesterday I told you guys in order to have a complete circuit, I need a source voltage, a switch, a load protection, a load, and then path back to ground, right?
Wire.
Is that going to change if I'm talking about a Ford versus a European high dollar car?
No.
No. So that's what we're referring to here, okay? It's not going to change. A lot of people see a car and like, oh, I'm not going to work on that because that's going to be different. It's the same shit. Okay? When it comes to engine diagnosing, we'll talk on that real quick. Is it any different if you're dealing with a European car to an American car? Is it any different to you're dealing from a car that was made in Canada to a car that came from Europe?
Okay, when you said that, based on the fact, the way the software, how the system works based on the engineers at that moment, some vehicles get the reading from the catalytic after the car, you know, and some of the German and the American cars and Japanese are one way.
Right,
Okay, that's one thing. Okay, you see,
what I'm referring to here was engine operation.
Yeah, but if you have information, that will make you go crazy. You'll be looking at the front, but not looking at the back.
In reference to what though?
Talking about fuel trims on both on European cars.
They're the same thing?
Sensor after the car.
They don't use that one for fuel trim. They use the front one.
But they want it. Well, okay, on Volkswagen and things like that, I had gone, and if I want, but until I went to people that was working on those cars only, I was able to repair some of those cars because they said the front, I was replacing the front, and I was looking at it, and actually it was the back because that's how they protect. Well, everybody is engineers, they know how to protect the catalytic converter, but different way, eliminating fuel, whatever, you know what I mean, when the misfire.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, some of those vehicles, this was a 2013 something like VW Beetle that was getting lean condition, and it wasn't really that. And the O2 sensor was showing problem, but it was related to the sensor after the car that was controlling the mixture. And
that's weird.
No, and I replaced it. I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So some manufacturers, that's what European, they work his own way.
Well, every manufacturer works it a different way. That's why I told you guys 8515.
On-floor,
right?
switching voltage, yes. When it comes to operational system, they are different.
They're different, but they're the same. Because if we look at it, so right now what you were saying is that you had a lean condition. If it's European, they're running Lambda. They're not running fuel trims. Are you guys aware of that? Okay, so Lambda's 1.0 means you're stoichiometric. Okay? So when you're running that type of situation, the rear O2's responsibility, no matter which car, especially if it comes to the U.S., it has to meet EPA requirements, which means the rear O2 has to monitor the cat. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay? So no matter what, if it's European or not, it's going to have to do certain things like everybody else, but there's going to be certain things that have to be specific to that car. So maybe they are using the rear one for air fuel. Stoichio might be possible, but usually they're going to use the fastest sensor, which is the air fuel, in front of the cat. But it all depends on the manufacturer. Okay?
Yeah, but...
So, talking about Ohm's Law. How many of you guys know what Ohm's Law is, what it states, and how do you apply it?
1 volt pushes 1 amp or 1 ohm.
Beautiful. Ohm's Law states it takes 1 volt to push 1 amp through 1 ohm of resistance. Yesterday we talked about voltage. Voltage is that pressure, flow, or resistance? Voltage. Pressure. Your battery is a pressure maker, right? Voltage is potential. So we have 1 volt to push 1 amp. What is amp?
Flow.
Flow, current, okay? And then through 1 ohm of resistance. What is resistance? How do you guys remember it?
91 freeway.
Ohms, 91 freeway, traffic, right? Anything slowing the flow of electricity. Or a load. Is that true? Okay? Volts exist when a surplus of electrons accumulate, therefore creating electrical pressure. Inside of the battery, we have what?
Electric pressure.
We have 12.6 volts of pressure, right? Resistance is the physical restriction of the conductor. Traffic, 91, kink in the hose, right? Amps are the number of electrons moved through the conductor. How fast can you go on the 91? Okay? You put it together, and that gives you Ohm's Law. All right, so let's talk about Ohm's Law real quick. Whenever we're looking at a particular circuit, okay, I'm going to go back to the picture here. This is going to be our resistance, this little uphill. Here's our volts, and the pressure is going to be the guy going up the hill, right? If resistance stays the same, and effort stays the same, or voltage stays the same, the voltage drop is going to be the same. Is that true? What happens when my resistance doubles? Now I need double the work, right? So in order for me to keep the same amount of current, I need to double my voltage. Does this make sense? Why? Because this guy now, instead of just going this small path, now he has to double that amount, right? So he needs to do double the work. So in order for him to keep the same speed, which is amperage, I need to increase my voltage or work or pressure to overcome this hill or my resistance. So this picture represents when you have an electrical problem. If resistance changes, but voltage stays the same, what happens to current? It slows down. So if I have excessive resistance within a circuit, what am I expecting to see? A drop in current.
Yeah, current.
Not voltage, current. Because the pressure is still there, right?
Yeah.
We still have the same amount of pressure. I still have 12.6 volts of pressure. Resistance doubled, right?
Good explanation of that would be like when you are charging when the alternator is charging a good battery.
Okay.
But like the voltage pretty much, it's relatively higher or lower, but the amperage is way high. You know, sometimes when the battery is discharged, then voltage you can see 13 volts, but the amperage is way a lot. You know what I mean? Charging the battery.
Actually, when you're
in the battery, well, when being charged.
when you're charging the battery, it's actually negative amperage.
But can we call that kind of resistance when being charged with that amount of amperage?
Not necessarily. It just depends on the state of the charge of the battery. If the battery is almost at a good charge, you're gonna have very little
but that's
current.
gonna be like kind of resistance
No.
when it's being charged?
No, this would be similar to, let's say you have too much corrosion on a ground circuit, right? So now instead of ground having to overcome 10 millivolts of voltage drop, okay, now it needs to overcome 2 volts of drop. So now it's going to work harder to get through it, so that means it's going to take it away from the rest of the circuit. Okay, so that's what they're referring to here. Okay? So the voltage is doubled and resistance stays the same, then the amperage will double. Usually when circuits fail, it's because the current flow is too low or non-existent. That right there, if you guys master this sentence, you guys will become experts in automotive electrical. Usually when circuits fail, it's because current flow is too low or non-existent. You guys remember I told you stop testing voltage because you're wasting your time, just check current? Why?
If there's no current, it doesn't
If there's no current, there's no circuit. There's nothing being done, there's no work being done. It's not active. Right? Beautiful. One test and I can figure that out. Okay? Usually when circuits fail, it's because current flow is too low or non-existent. That's it. And if it's too low, what happens? Resistance went up. Okay? So here we have our voltmeter connected across the load. On the first one, all the way over here to the left, it says 12.48 volts across the load. What is that indicating to you? Source voltage, but we're across the load. Why is it giving me source voltage? Yesterday you guys did voltage drop testing, correct? Okay. My meter's connected in series across the load. Is that a voltage drop test? Everybody agree that's a voltage drop? Okay. If that's a voltage drop, how many loads do I have on that circuit? So how many volts is that one load going to use? All available. Right? So if that battery... Oh, wait. If we have 12.48 volts across the load, how many volts does that battery have? Probably about 12.6. Why? Because we're probably going to lose some voltage here, okay? And then that's what's going to give us 12.48 volts across that load. So if they were to give you a question here with that picture, and they're asking you if there's a problem with the circuit, what would you say? No. Or if they give you this picture and they ask you, is this circuit or is that load turned on, what is going to be your answer?
Yes, it's on.
It's on. Does everybody agree? Yeah. Okay. The one over here on the right. The first voltmeter is connected. We'll go with this one first. It's connected across the load and it's giving me 11.3 volts. What's your first assumption? How many loads are on that circuit?
Only one. Oh, there.
There's one load. One bulb, right? So how many volts is that bulb going to use?
All
All of them. Is it using all of them?
No.
How do you know that? I got a 12.6 volt battery and I only have 11.3 volts on that meter. So what is that telling me?
It's a voltage drop.
So that means I have unwanted resistance on the circuit, right? That means there's some traffic on the freeway.
I want to resist the voltage drop.
So the resistance is going to be somewhere along this part. How do I know that? We connected our voltmeter on the positive side of the battery on the opposite side of the switch. Voltage drop there is 1.2 volts. So what is that telling you? That's way too high. It's a power side. What's the maximum? 0.3. Okay? So we're 800 millivolts, 900 millivolts above what we're supposed to be. Based off of that diagram, what would be the problem?
Averages.
Where?
Switch.
Why the switch? It's the only thing there, right? The fuse. Can the fuse be the problem? If the fuse blew, we would have no current in the circuit, right? If I had no current, I'd have no voltage drop. True? Okay?
And it's not being specific by just doing the fuse.
Right. So you're not just testing here, okay?
You're doing the whole.
Now, nobody brought it up, but I've had people bring it up, well, what if the fuse is bad? Okay, what two options do you have for a fuse being bad?
I mean, one of them not having a good tight connection.
No connection, but that's going to be in the fuse box. Okay, and is that a very common occurrence? No. A fuse that's bad, it might be blown.
Yep.
Is that going to have current flow?
No.
No. Have any of you guys ever done a voltage drop test on a fuse?
No.
You know you could do that for, what's the word I'm looking for? Parasitic draw. Okay, parasitic draw test. I know Sal knows this, right? Okay, when you do a parasitic draw test, you could go across the fuse, get a millivolt reading. Usually it's only going to be drawing about 100 millivolts. So if the fuse was a problem, okay, that's still 1.2 volts over what I should be. So if the fuse was bad, which is not a common occurrence, which I would not even try to say that it's going to be the fuse, the best thing here would be the switch. Does everybody agree with that? So it's a moving component, and more than likely it's going to wear out. Okay?
Ignition switches.
Switch, contact switch, push switch. Okay, that could be the problem.
Why is it normal to lose a little bit of current, like on a switch? The first,
Contacts.
Burn.
So the contacts after time are going to start wearing out, so you're going to start creating some sort of resistance.
so it's a brand new system that that meter should read the same voltage. as
It'll
that.
probably be still about the same. Yeah, so when we cover Kirchhoff's law at the end, you're going to see that all your voltage drops add up for a total voltage. So no matter how good of the circuit it is, you're going to have some voltage drop. Yesterday, you guys were testing the boards, and you were having 10 millivolts, 6 millivolts, okay? Wire on its own has a voltage drop. So no matter what, you're always going to have a voltage loss from one point to another, okay? It's kind of like piston rings. When you put an engine together, it's always going to have volume loss through the pistons because it has end gaps, okay? So Ohm's law is a relationship between volts, amps, and ohms, and they always balance out. If resistance stays the same but voltage rises, then greater force pushes more current through the circuit. If resistance stays the same but voltage decreases, less current flows through the circuit. And the total current flow of a circuit in amps always equals the voltage divided by resistance. How many of you guys have ever heard the equation V equals A times R? You guys ever heard that before? Or some of you guys might have been taught E equals I times R? Okay, one of the two. V is volts, A is amps times resistance. So if you guys have to calculate anything, remember that equation, V equals A times R. If they give you a question that says you got a 12-volt circuit, they give you a question, they tell you got a circuit that's drawing 3 amps with 4 ohms of resistance. How many volts is that circuit? 12. Congratulations, you just did Ohm's law. Okay, you're going to get questions like that. They're also going to ask you, how do you calculate wattage? You guys should remember this. How do you calculate wattage?
I messed up on it.
Volts times amps, right? Okay, volts times amps gives you watts. So you guys need to remember that one. They're going to ask you that on the state test. Okay, there's one question, only one, but you need to know it. Amps times volts gives you wattage.
It's schematic for that. You have 2 watts, 4 watts, and then
Just add them.
12 volts.
I'm going to add them all up.
But it's just not like Ohm's law.
Yeah,
How do you convert?
we're going to get there.
Huh?
We're going to get there.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right. Ohm's law. Okay, if you guys need to calculate Ohm's law, you can remember the pie chart or just remember the equation. V equals A times R. I need to know two of these to find the unknown one. Okay? Yesterday I showed you guys a picture of a fuel injector that was being tested for resistance. You guys remember that? And then I told you the circuit had 12.6 volts, right? And it was 16 ohms, and I sort of calculated about 800 millivolts. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you guys did the math and it turned out correct? I mean, 800 milliamps. Same thing here, okay? If you know your voltage, which we all know what the voltage would be of the component, the next thing we could do is figure out the resistance of it. Then that's going to tell us what we should expect for current. So if I have a car that's coming in, okay, and it keeps blowing a fuse, right, wouldn't it be a good idea for me to check the resistance on the circuit, or the component that's being controlled? What's my source voltage? Then determine what current should be. Right? Because then if I know that I should be expecting 3 amps of current and I go test it and I'm getting 10, what is that telling me? I got a problem. Amperage went up, I lost resistance. Does that make sense? Okay? So this is why you need to do this calculation first before you go to the car. Because you need to know what am I going to expect once I get there. Does that make sense? Okay? So using Ohm's law gives you an accurate method of determining the value in an electrical circuit. If for the value of V and R are known, okay, then you can find amps, and so on and so forth. Okay, just remember, V equals A times R. If bar gives it to you, it might be E equals I times R. It's the same thing. E, voltage, I, amperage, R, resistance. Okay? So we're solving for Ohm's law on this one here. 4 ohms, 6 amps. What's the voltage for this circuit?
24.
Oops. 24 volts. Does everybody agree with that? So 3 into 12, how many times? So is that a 4 amp circuit? Okay. Now that we know it's a 4 amp circuit, I'm going to go test it on the car. If I'm getting less than 4 amps, is that a problem? Could be. Okay. Why do I say that? Because circuits are designed up to that amount. Doesn't mean it has to be that amount. Does that make sense? How many of you guys have ever took a fuse out for an ignition coil? They're usually a 10 amp fuse. You guys know how many ohms of resistance a coil has?
6 to 12,000.
The average coil on the primary side has about 12 ohms of resistance. If I got 12 volts to start with and 12 ohms of resistance, how many amps should it draw? 1. But why does it have a 10 amp fuse? Just in case. No bullshit, just in case. Okay? Because why? I have a coil that can ramp up to 10 amps. Is it going to and should it? No. Why? Because normally the car's at idle when you're testing it. Under load is when we can bring it up to about 5 amps. Why? Because we need to get that burn process going faster. So I need to charge it up faster and discharge it faster. Is that true? So I need more current flowing through it in order to get that done. So I make a circuit to hold up to 10 amps so I could get up to 5 amps way faster than if the circuit was only designed for 5 amps. Does that make sense? Okay? That's Ohm's law. If you guys understand that, you can apply it and it makes your diags that much easier. Okay? The unit of power, 1 watt is produced by 1 volt that causes 1 amp of current flow. Did I just tell you guys that? Volts times amps gives you watts, right? Okay? So here's the equation. Power equals watts, amps, and volts. Do you guys remember the diagram that you were referring to for wattage?
Oh, yeah. It's 12 volts, it was 2 watts, and 4 watts converted into, what is the total voltage, 24, 48, or 7, I think it was, amps?
It was 12 volts, and you had 7 amps?
Something like that.
So every 74?
The A, B, C, and D were 24, 48, or 37, or 7, something like that. I just couldn't figure out the math.
I need to know the question a little bit better. Because you need those two, or the wattage divided by amps or wattage divided by volts can give you the opposite one. So if they give you watts and volts, you would divide them. And that's going to give you amps. So it's basically just like doing your Ohm's law calculation.
Schematic.
Yeah, it's a schematic. So if you're in a series schematic, you're going to add them. Were they resistance values they were giving you?
They were resistance, yes. It was 2 and 4 and 12. Battery.
Okay, and then 2 and 4?
2 and 4.
Okay. So then, at that point, they were probably wanting you to do Ohm's law and then use Ohm's law to calculate wattage.
Okay. Is that what it is?
So if they were doing that, if you had two resistors, what were the resistances again?
2 and 4.
2 and 4, so you're looking at 6, 12, so that gives you 2 amps. And then 2 amps times 12 volts, 24 amps, 24 watts.
Okay, so
There's your answer, yeah.
24.
So if that's what they were giving you, then that's what they wanted you to do. 24 watts, you guys got the right answer. Okay? So we're about to get to series circuits, and then I'll re-explain that so that way it makes sense, okay? So series circuits, how many of you guys have ever put up Christmas lights in Christmas time?
Long time ago.
Okay, you plug this shit in, half of them don't work. You guys ever had that happen? Okay, then what do you do at that point? You start looking for the bulb, right? How many of you guys have ever been taught that you go find the last bulb that's lit and you replace the one right after it? Have you guys ever been taught that? Why not?
Because in that situation, you can use any of those bolts that are out.
No, it's that one. Why? It's a series circuit. In a series circuit, you have one path of current flow. Okay? So picture this. If we only had the 10 freeway to go from here to LA and back, how would traffic be? Crazy, right? We start losing people on every exit. True?
Yeah.
Okay? So in a series circuit, if you start with 12 volts, the first load is going to use up some of that voltage. Whatever is left gets used up by the next one. Whatever is left gets used up by the next one until it gets to the end. Right? So if I have a bulb that goes out right smack in the middle, and I got one bulb on each side, is this one still going to light? If this one went out?
No.
If power's here, this one's still going to light. And this one's dead, so everything after it's dead. So you replace this one, and that brings the circuit back alive because it's a series circuit. Okay? So in a series circuit, we got one path of current flow, just like we have here. Okay? So in a series circuit, we got to remember that there's one path, meaning it's going to share the source voltage amongst all the loads on that circuit. So let's look at it. I got a battery that has 12 volts. I got a switch. One load, two loads. In a series circuit, you add all the resistances together to get RT, or total resistance. I got two resistances, 9 and 3. What does 9 and 3 equal? 12. 12 and 12, how many times? 1. Because this is a series circuit, amperage is the same no matter what part of the circuit you test it at. So if I test it right here, how many am I drawing? How many here? And how many here? What if I test it here? What if I test it there? Same thing. Why? It's a series circuit. Okay? So now that I know it's 1 amp for the entire circuit, how am I going to figure how many volts this bulb is going to use? Using Ohm's law. What two things do I need to know to figure out voltage drop across a load? Amps and resistance. What's my amperage?
1.
1. What's my resistance for that one load?
3.
What's 1 times 3? How many volts are you going to lose across that bulb? And how many are left for the next one? 9. Then if we get to this one, I have 9 ohms of resistance, and I have 1 amp throughout the entire circuit. How many volts is that bulb going to use?
9.
How many did you have left from the other one? 9. So what are you going to have after that bulb? 0. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I'm testing this circuit and I put my voltmeter here, from here to here, right, after the last load, and I still got a volt, what is that telling me?
Voltage. There's unwanted resistance.
That means I have unwanted resistance. 1 amp. 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 1 right? Because it's after the last load. So that last load used up all available voltage.
Should.
If I have some left over, more than 200 millivolts, that's a problem. That's a corrosion issue. Unwanted resistance. Does that make sense? Okay. What's the difference between this one and that one?
The resistance has been switched.
Just the resistance has changed. They move the bulbs around, right? It's the same thing. Okay? So in a series circuit, current flow stays the same in the series circuit in all parts of the circuit. Current flow is the same no matter what on a series circuit. No matter where you test it, it's the same. Okay? Voltage drops as current goes through the resistances in series. As it starts going through the loads, voltage starts getting less and less and less until it has none left, right? The applied voltage is equal to the sum of all individual voltage drops, Kirchhoff's law. So if I start with 12 volts, how many volts am I going to use with all the loads in the circuit? 12. Okay? Resistances add up in a series. RT. All resistances add up in a series circuit. Okay? So earlier, we had the example of, what was it? 6 and 4? Okay.
No,
What are the numbers?
4 and 2.
4 and 2. Okay? So 4 and 2. It's a series circuit. What do we do to those two resistances?
Add them up.
Add them up. What's 4 and 2? If I have a 12-volt battery, how many amps does that circuit draw? 2, right? So now I need to figure out wattage. What do I need to figure out wattage? Voltage and amps. I know it's a 2-amp circuit, 12 volts. What's my wattage? 24 watts. Do you guys see how we figured that? Okay? You're going to get a question on that on the state test. What you're going to do is you're going to take this information, 4 and 2, add them up. It's a series circuit, right? You add them up. 6. 12 volts. 6 goes into 12 how many times? 2. 2 amp draw. I need volts and amps to get watts. 12 volts, 2 amps, 24 watts. Okay? Make sense?
So the other one will be 48, right? That's
If you added another resistor, then you would add the resistor and then redo the whole calculation. Just with those two loads, the 4 and 2, would be 24 watts for the whole circuit.
If we use another bulb.
If you add another bulb, then you got to recalculate Ohm's law and then recalculate for your wattage. Okay? We got another one. Series circuit. Okay? How many loads do you have? 3. Okay? In the series circuit, we add all the loads up. True?
Yep.
So if we add them all up, what does that add up to?
12.
And I got a 12-volt battery. What's my amperage? 1 amp. What's my voltage drop across R1? 1 amp times 4 ohms is how many volts? 4. So that's 4 volts, right? So this uses up 4. What's 12 minus 4? So that means I have 8 volts getting to here. This is 4 ohms times 1 amp is how many volts? 4. So 8 minus 4, I have 4 volts leaving, and I got a 4 ohm resistor times 1 amp is how many volts? 4. So if I got 4 getting here and this uses 4, how many do I have on this side? 0. Okay? Everybody okay with that? All right? All right, so let's do some math. For number 1, it's a 12-volt circuit and it draws 3 amps. What's your resistance?
4.
Number 2, 12 volts, 3 ohms. What's your amperage? 4. Okay? Number 3, 3 amps, 4 ohms of resistance. What's your voltage?
12.
Number 4, you got 2 ohms of resistance, 12 volts. What's your amperage? 6. Number 5, you got 2 resistors, 3 ohms each, and 2 amps. What's your voltage? Everybody agree with 12? Number 6, we got 12 volts and 3 amps. What's my total resistance? 4. So what's R2? I heard it already. 1. How do we get 1? So we're missing a resistance, right? what two things do we have? Volts and amps. I got 12 volts, 3 amps. 3 goes into 12 how many times? 4. One resistor is 3 ohms, so that leaves you with? 1. So what's going to be R2? 1. In a series circuit, we add up all resistances. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, is that a series circuit? Yeah, so you would add them up. 1 and 3 is 4, right? 3 goes into 12, 4 times. Okay, good? All right. Any questions on series circuits? All right. Let's go to parallel circuits. Boom, boom, boom. So in a parallel circuit, all components are connected directly to battery voltage. They all have an individual branch, okay? They're not all put together. They look like they are, but they're not. If any connection or component fails in a parallel circuit, current continues to flow normally through the remaining circuits. In a series circuit, if I lose one load, I lose the rest of them. In this one, if I lose one, they don't give a shit. The other ones are still going. Does that make sense? Okay? On the left side here, we have a parallel circuit. Do you guys see the difference between a parallel and a series circuit? So if we look at our series circuit, power leaves, goes through one load, back into the second load, back to ground, right? On this one, power leaves, and I got to splice to one load, then I got another one to the other load. So if I lose this one's still going to have its own amount of current to flow the circuit. Is that true? Okay. So one terminal of the battery and one terminal of each component can be connected anywhere to the body or chassis to complete the circuit, known as a good common ground, okay, or a good ground connection. The parallel circuit states all voltages across all branch parallels are equal. The total current in a parallel circuit equals the sum of the current flowing in each branch of the circuit, and total resistance of a parallel circuit decreases as more branches are added. This is where it gets tricky, okay? Here, we're telling you, all voltage across all branches on parallel circuit are equal. They all get 12 volts, right? Because we're not sharing it. They each get their own individual branch, okay? Second one, the total current in a parallel circuit equals the sum of the current flowing in each branch. So if you have 3 branches, you add them all up. Each branch, you calculate amperage for its own branch, then you add up all the amperages to give you total amperage. Does that make sense? Okay? So let's say I got 4 ignition coils, and each coil draws 4 amps. What's my total amperage draw for the whole circuit? 16, right? 4 times 4 is 16. So do you guys see how each one is individual, but we have to add them for a total amperage? Okay? If I got 4 injectors, and each one of them is drawing 2 amps, what's going to be my total amperage draw for all 4 injectors? 8 amps. So I'd use a 10 amp fuse. You guys see where I'm going with this? Okay? And then total resistance of the parallel circuit decreases as more branches are added. How many of you guys have ever took a class on CAN bus? Or any of you guys ever taught to use a voltmeter in resistance to check pins 6 and 14 of the DLC? No? Use a breakout box, right? But 6 and 14 of the DLC give you 60 ohms of resistance. Are you guys aware of this? Okay? The reason why we get 60 ohms is because inside of the CAN bus we have 2 120 ohm resistors in parallel. As terminating resistors are telling the modules that this is the end of the circuit and hey, this is the end of the circuit. Okay? Why is it that having 2 120 ohm resistors only gives me 60 ohms out of the DLC? What does the last rule say? Parallel circuit, resistance decreases as branches are added. So if I have 120 ohm resistor and I add a second 120 ohm resistor, what does my resistance become? 60. Whenever you have 2 resistances that are the same, on a parallel circuit, they cut in half. So if I have 2 120 ohm resistors on a parallel circuit, how many ohms am I going to have? 60. Because I have two of the same value, so they cut in half. Okay? You guys need to remember that. Anytime you have a parallel circuit, if you have two of the same resistances, they cut in half.
Like the freeway.
Kind of like the freeway, you found a shortcut. Okay? They're going to cut them in half. Right? I give that CAN bus one because that's a real scenario, that's a real system, that's how it works, and that's why you see 60 ohms.
North and south. Now you have less resistance.
True, you have less resistance. Okay? So that's what's changing it. Okay? In a parallel circuit, voltage across each branch is the same as the other branches, irrespective of how many branches are added or removed. In a parallel circuit, each branch is going to have 12 volts, no matter what, unless it has an electrical problem, such as resistance, right? Okay? The current flowing in each branch is determined by the resistance of that branch along with the voltage supplied to that branch. In a parallel circuit where the resistor of each branch are the same, the current flowing through each branch is also the same. When the resistances are not equal, the current divides in accordance with the resistance of each branch, but the total current flow is still the sum of all the current flowing in each individual branch. Let me show you a picture because all that shit was crazy. So let's look at a picture. We got a battery. How many volts is this battery? 12. How many branches do you have? 3. So the first branch has 2 ohms of resistance. If I want to find out current, I need to divide 2 into 12. Right? What does that give me? 6 amps. This one's 6 ohms, 12 volt battery, how many amps? This one's 12 ohms, 12 volt battery, how many amps? So now I know this one's 6, this one's 2, and this one's 1. What's going to be my total amperage draw for that circuit? 9 amps. Okay? Do I have any resistances that are the same? No. Okay, so at this point, resistance is going to be how many ohms of resistance? $20? Okay. For 9 amp draw. Right? So let's look at number 1. Let's do some math. We got 2 resistors of 4 ohms each and 12 volts. How many amps is this circuit going to draw?
4 amps.
Why 6? Do I have 2 like resistors?
Yes.
I got 2 4 ohm resistors. Can I cut that in half?
Yes.
So now those 2 become one circuit of 2 ohms. So what's 2 into 12?
6.
So it's 6 amps. Draw. I'll give you guys a minute. It's a trip, right?
Yeah, I did it backwards. Or another way.
Okay? If you want to do it the longer way, this is how you do it the longer way. This is 4 ohms, right? 12 volts. What's the amperage for this branch? 3. Same thing here, 3. 3 and 3? Total circuit amperage is what? What's my answer? 6. I like doing shit easy. I find 2 resistors that are the same value, and there's 2 of them, so I'm going to cut them in half. Okay? So let's look at number 1 again. I got 12 volts, 2 resistors of 4 ohms each. Can I cut those 2 in half? What's half of 4? 2. 2 into 12? 6. Okay?
So the other thing is the same thing.
You what?
The thing that you added up, right?
Yeah, you can just do it the long way or the short way. E is voltage. You want to go the long way? Oh, yeah. You can do it the long way. I like the short way. I like doing stuff easy, right?
So every time it's the same load, you just cut it in half, and then you just go by whatever.
And then if you have 2 of them or 3 of them, then you divide that into 12, and then you get your amperage. Okay? Let's do number 2. What information do we have for number 2? 12 volts, 4 amps, right? So what's going to be my total resistance? How many times is 4 going to 12? 3. So total resistance is 3. So being that I have 1 6-ohm resistor, what's going to be R2? I heard somebody say it already. 6. Why is it 6? Because if I have 2 6-ohm resistors, don't they cut in half to 3? 3 times 4 is 12, right? Right? Okay. So can we do it that way? Are you guys okay with that, or you guys want to do it the long way? I want you guys to go through this because you're gonna get some stuff on this.
Fraction table.
Yeah, yeah, I will not teach you that fraction table. Hell no. I sat through a physics class to try to learn that shit.
No.
Hell no. Okay.
Keep it simple, kid. You got all kinds of.
Keep it simple. Okay. If you guys go on YouTube and type in parallel circuit calculation or equations, the shortest video you're gonna find is about 18 minutes. And it's some kid from MIT on a blackboard trying to show you how this shit works. Unless you're gonna get an engineering degree, this is probably the easiest way to fucking do it. Okay? You find 2 of them that are the same, cut them in half. It works. Or you can go the long way. Calculate each branch individually, add it up for a sum. Okay? It's all up to you. So let's do number 3, but let's do it the long way. Well, we actually don't need to. Well, yeah, we actually do. We got 12 volts and 2 12-ohm resistors, right? So if R1 is 12 ohms, 12 volts, what's the amp draw for first branch? 1, right? 12 into 12 is 1. R2 is 12 ohms, 12 volts, what's the amperage draw? 1 plus 1, total amperage? Or can I have just done 2 12 ohm divided by 2, 6, 6 into 12, 2. Would that work too? Okay, do you guys see how I'm doing that faster one?
Always apply, so they're
As long as they're the same value, it's going to apply.
what if there was 3?
Same. If you got 3 of them, but 2 of them are the same, use those 2. Okay? Like number 4. Let's do number 4. So number 4 has 12 volts. Okay? R1 and R2 are 4. So these 2 can divide and that becomes 2. I got 2 and 2 can divide, that becomes 1, so it's going to be 1. 1 amp into 12 volts. Excuse me. Hold on. I just did that. I just tricked myself here. Is this the one that we were having problems with, Jose?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay. So let's do this one the long way real quick. First one, R1, has 4 ohms. 4 ohms into 12 gives you what? 3. Somebody write this down because I'm probably going to forget by the time we get to the last one. So first one's 3. R2 is 4 ohms. 12 volts is also going to be 3. And then R3 is 2, right? 2 into 12 is what? 6. 6, 9, 12, right? What's my amperage draw? 1. I was wrong. I put that one in wrong. It's 1. That's what I got on the first one, right?
There's 2.
So the first one is 4 into 12 gives you 3 amps for R1 branch, right? R2 branch is 4 ohms into 12 volts, 3 amps, right? R3 is 2. 2 into 12 is 6, okay?
So the answer to that is
So total amperage for all 3 branches is 12 amps, right? Okay? Or 12, yeah. And then that goes into 12 how many times? 1. Okay? So then what's the answer? 1. I put it in wrong. Sorry. So the answer for number 4 is 1.
So that's 1 times 12.
Okay? And here's Kirchhoff's law. This is what I was telling you guys. Kirchhoff's law of voltage tells us that in any closed loop circuit, the total voltage drop around the loop is equal to sum of all voltage drops within the circuit. So that means if I start with 12.6, after every voltage drop on the circuit, if I add them all up, what should I get? 12.6. Okay? The only time you're really going to get 12.6 is if you have a top-notch voltmeter. If you don't, you're going to be off by a couple millivolts, and that's acceptable because all voltmeters are not made the same. We're okay with that? Okay? So that way you guys don't call me and be like, dude, I just did one, and I'm missing 6 millivolts. There's a problem. I'm like, no, that's normal. Okay, that's okay. You're within an acceptable range. Now, if you call me and you tell me I'm missing 6 volts, then we got a fucking problem. Alright? 6 millivolts, I'm going to tell you don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep over it. Does that make sense? Okay?
Will any of the test questions be specified like that? Or like,
Like that?
yeah.
Like voltage drops?
Yeah.
A couple.
So you have your mathematics has to be on point.
Yeah. So, you're asking if they're getting something like that?
No, are most questions gonna be like that, or are they gonna have like?
They're going to be drawn out like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
They're going to be drawn out like this. Yeah, you're going to have the 4 answers. Here's what I do when I get there, okay? They give you a tablet now, and there's a button on it that clears it once you're done writing on it. Okay, so first thing I do when I get to the test center is I start taking notes. And I'm not taking notes on the test, I'm taking notes on what I remember. Okay, that's your personal space right there. So first thing I do, I get there, E equals I times R. And then 200 millivolts on the ground, 300 millivolts on the power, fog light, 1230, 12 inches minimum, 30 inches max. Anything I can remember, I start writing it out. Why? Because I'm going to delete it anyway. And they don't need to fucking know what I'm writing down anyway. Right? So I'll write all that stuff down. Why? So then I jump right into the test. If I need my references, I already wrote them down. Okay? Yeah. Any value you can remember, write it down. It's going to come in handy. Okay? Little cheat sheet that I use. Right? So, what Hector was asking is if we're going to get stuff like this, yes you are. Okay? They're going to give you a diagram like this, and they're going to have a voltmeter connected somewhere, and they're going to ask you, what are you testing? So you got to look at what am I testing here, and then look at what are the 4 answers, and then you can make a decision. Is this amperage? Is this voltage? Is this a voltage drop? What are they testing here? Okay, so that's what they're going to be asking. If I remember correctly, there was like 4 or 5 questions on Ohm's law, where you actually had to calculate stuff. But in order to calculate it, what do you need? E equals I times R. V equals A times R, right? It's the same thing. Or if you want to calculate wattage, what is it? Amps and volts. Multiplying. Okay? So that's it.
That's first before the equal is what you're trying to find out.
Right. So then just plug in whatever you need.
Yeah.
So if you have voltage, put voltage equals, and then if you have amps, put the amps, right? And then we know we got to do...
To know that I got to put, I'm freaked out.
Get there, Lolo. Yeah, no, I got you guys. I've been there. I remember I got to take the same test, so you guys are good. Okay? So I know how it feels being there. I know the stress about being there. That's why I'm giving you my tips. You get there, write all that shit down. Why wouldn't you? Right? You got a free notepad. Use it. Okay? Even with ASCs, my classes, when I tell you guys to go take an AC, I tell you the same thing. Get there and write shit down. They give you 2 sheets of paper, or 4 sheets of paper, fold it into 2. And then you can take notes. You're going to shred that paper anyways. It's not like you're taking it home. Take notes. Not on the test, but for stuff for you guys to take, for you guys to remember the test. Okay? So, let's look at voltage drops. Starting with our battery, leaving the battery from point A up to point B, we got a voltage drop of 25 millivolts. Across the load from B to C, we have 11.835 volts drop. That's the only load on the circuit, so should we be using all available voltage?
Yes.
Okay? From point C to D, we have 25 millivolts drop. Across the switch from D to E, we have 6 millivolts drop. And then from E to F, I have 3 millivolts, and then from G to H, I have 25. For a grand total of 12 volts. So Kirchhoff's law tells you that every voltage drop on a circuit adds up to the total available voltage. Is that true? If you do a voltage drop test across the entire circuit and it doesn't add up, is that a problem? Okay? Alright? So some of the questions you might be getting is you'll get a picture like this and they have a voltmeter from here to here and the voltmeter shows 0. What is that telling you?
From where to where? B to C?
From B to C, and it shows 0.
Open.
You sure?
From, the fuse.
I haven't told you the question yet, right? I just told you there's a picture. They have a voltmeter across B and C, and it's showing 0.
The whole voltage is being used for long view.
So it could be one of 2 things. We don't know yet because I haven't given you a question, right? But it could be a blown fuse, or it could be a missing ground. Okay? So now let me give you the question. The circuit has been turned on, and voltmeter across B and C shows 0 volts. Everybody agree blown fuse?
Yeah.
Why blown fuse?
Turned on.
So the fuse is blown, I'll have no current flow, right?
Yeah.
So if I have no current flow, then there's going to be 0 volts across the load. True?
Yep.
Good shit. Why are you guys sweating it? You guys got it right. You guys are all like, you guys are all tripping, right?
So what reading would we get there if it was the ground?
Similar reading. That's the crazy part. That's why you need to know what are they asking. And that's why I told you guys you had 2 options, right? If it's a ground, and I go across here, sorry, I messed up. Fuse is intact. If I go across here, how many volts should I see? No, sorry, 0. Yeah, you're right. Fuck, man, my mind's everywhere today. If I go across the bulb and there's no ground, it's going to be 0 because it's doing a voltage drop test. Right? Since I don't have a ground, the circuit is not active. Because the circuit is not active, there's no current flow. Because there's no current flow, it's 0 volts voltage drop. Does that make sense? Okay? That would be a ground missing. Fuse would give you the same reading. So you need to know what are they asking you in that particular question. Okay? Does that make sense?
In a zero circuit, the total voltage drop in a load is going to be the total.
Total from the battery is going to equal all voltage drops.
In parallel circuit.
In parallel, it does the same.
The same?
So total amount of voltage drop, well, it's not going to be the same because each one's going to have 12 volts across the load because it's a parallel. So this law applies to the series circuit. This law applies to series only.
Okay, what about if the...
On parallel, we don't have one. It's just basically each branch, you do the voltage drop across the load.
So it's going to be the total voltage?
Because remember, it's one load on per branch on a parallel, so it's going to use up all 12 volts.
Okay,
So-
you're going to use the 12 volts?
Yeah, it's going to use it up on that one load. On a series circuit, everything uses a little bit of it, so that's why we add them all up. Yeah, on parallel, each branch uses up 12, so if I have 3 branches, each one has 12 anyway.
All those reading from A to B, B to C, so that's normal on that.
On a series, yes. Huh?
But that's
So
the mostly we use in
contact will
cars.
drop.
Cars now, newer cars today are using series parallel. So it's a mixture of both of these put together.
So recap, you're putting your voltmeter between C and D. You get a 0 reading, you have lost of ground or a blown fuse.
Correct,
Right, because it just makes sense either way.
correct. Circuit's not
It's
active.
going to tell you one way, right?
So you got to read the question. Based off of whatever the question's telling you, if they tell you the circuit's active, then that's basically telling you the circuit's been turned on.
So that'd be the fuse. Right?
So then more than likely it's going to be the fuse, if the meter's showing 0.
Yeah, because you said active. So
Right. So that means we turned it on.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then you don't have anything, so it's correct.
So it's going to
If
be,
you put your voltmeter from point A into the C, you won't see voltage at the C because it's being consumed by the single.
I will. If I go from here to here, this is a power feed and this is a ground feed, so I'm going to see battery voltage.
So only through voltage drop is when there should be no volt on.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime that you test A to C in that circuit, should be voltage.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that is being applied to the load.
If I was going to side C, I would go to H to C. That's for a voltage drop on the ground. If I go A to C, I'm doing a voltage test, which is testing like at the battery.
Voltage test is from A to C.
Yes.
Voltage test.
Yes.
Okay,
So that would be like if I'm going A to H.
And then A to B, that would be a voltage drop, and C to F would be a voltage drop.
Correct. A to B would be a voltage drop. A to B voltage.
Voltage test because I like that makes it easier.
Yeah. There's a different term for it. So whenever you're going a power to a ground, that's not a voltage drop. That's a voltage test.
Voltage test.
You're testing for the presence of potential voltage, right? Okay? But once I go power to power, that's a voltage drop. Once I go ground to ground, that's a voltage drop. You guys with me on that one?
Voltage test there.
Okay? What if I go H to B?
Okay.
That's a voltage test.
That will be voltage test.
I'm testing for potential, right?
The alternator when they go to the ground.
Yeah, that's when you go to the battery ground and back of the alternator.
We can do a voltage test from A to C, you can have possibility not to have the whole potential, and then you go through the, what is called the voltage drop.
Then you can
Find
start
out
doing the
what-
voltage drop, yeah.
So from the voltage test, you will get to see what is no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say you got a 12-volt battery, you go A to C, and you only get 11.5.
Yes.
There's no way you're losing half a volt from A to C. The bulb's not going to use half a volt. How much is it going to use? All of it, right? So that means you got a voltage drop somewhere between A and C.
So we start from voltage.
So that's a general test, like I've been telling you. So generally, you tested the circuit, you found that you have a voltage drop. Now you got to pinpoint it. So then now you start walking your meter. You leave one lead there, and you start moving it. So if I'm here, right, I'll leave my one lead here, and then I'll start coming back this way. I'll test right here at the bulb at B. If that one's still showing me, I'll come back this way. If it's still showing, I'll come back. Still showing, I'll come back to the fuse. If it goes away there, then the problem is probably in the connection of the fuse. Okay?
So if for some reason you have a reading of all that is D, so we'll first do, you know, what it will be the voltage test,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there we'll go.
Exactly. You got to check it generally first.
Could be the ground, could be the positive, and then we got the number.
Yep. So we're going to check presence at the load. If the presence isn't what we expect, then we know we got to start pinpointing where the problem is, right? I always go to the easiest thing first. So I'll pull a wiring diagram. If I see a switch, I'm going to the switch. Why? It's the easiest thing I get to, and if that one's okay, then I'm going to move on to the next best thing, right? Okay, and then afterwards, if I need to, then I'll start going through the circuit. Make sense? All right. Any questions on series, parallel circuits, Kirchhoff's law, any of that fun stuff? All right, let's talk about laws and regulations for headlamps and rear combination lights. According to the state of California, there are 4 types of headlights that can be used on today's vehicles. Okay? Composite seal beams, HID lights known as xenon bulbs, and LED type headlights, or halogen sealed beams, back in the old days. This right here is considered a composite light, so if you guys get asked a question that says this vehicle has a composite light, what kind of light are they talking about? Plastic. Okay? When they say sealed beam, that one. So you guys ever been to AutoZone, and they have lights that are in a box, right? That's a sealed beam. Your bulb gets replaced with the whole housing. That was back in the day, okay? This is new stuff. This is called composite light. You need to know the difference because they reference it that way. A vehicle with a composite light has this problem. You need to know what the difference is between a composite and a seal beam. Okay?
Makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Okay, if you don't know the difference, you're lost. There goes 50% of your state test. Okay?
What is the difference?
Sealed beam is glass, composite is plastic. Okay?
It could be glass too, but it has a bulb that can be replaced independently.
Yeah, it's going to have a bulb you can replace. So some of them might be a glass lens, but if the bulb can be replaced on its own, then it's going to be a composite light. Okay?
So only if you replace the bulb with composite?
Yes. If it's a sealed beam, you're replacing the whole thing. There's a question that comes up on the test, and they ask you that do you have a light, a composite light you're testing, and it has a stamp on it that says E4. Those of you guys that took the test, you guys remember that question?
Yeah.
All right. Lamps that are made here in the United States will have a DOT or Society of Automotive Engineer number, okay? And in some cases, an ECE number stamped on the outside of the housing, like this one right here, okay? DOT indicates it's approved by the U.S. Department of Transportation. SAE means that it's designed and approved by Society of Automotive Engineers. ECE is the Economic Commission for Europe. That means that the light was designed for use in Europe. Okay? If you have a light that has an E and then any number after it, the number represents the country for which that light was made for. Okay? So the state question is you get a vehicle comes in for a brake and lamp inspection, and when you look at it, you have a light that has an E4 on it. Does that pass or fail? Passes. It was certified by ECE. Commission of Europe. They're the DOT of Europe. So if they approved it, it's allowed here.
For Netherlands.
Okay? So that means that light was approved by the ECE of Europe for the Netherlands.
So they still have to have that stamp of ECE in it?
It's either going to have the DOT, SAE, or the E stamp.
Oh, okay.
One of the three.
The reason it would fail is if it doesn't have anything.
If it doesn't have any of those three stamps.
So the ECE number is the E, what's the number out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's a question on the test.
What lights don't have that?
The cheap ones, the ones you get on eBay, that come from China, or the ones you order on Wish.
So all those stamps right there, if you see it on the headlights, that will all pass, right?
Yeah,
All those
it
stamps
passes.
that we're looking at it right now.
Huh? It passes.
Those light bulbs that are sold, Amazon, that have the little fans that are brighter, are those legal?
LED, they're legal.
I got them on my truck.
Hmm? We're not testing intensity, so that's one of the kickers. If you put an LED light, an LED bulb in a pair can put up to 12,000 lumens. So that's excessively bright. In California, I believe the law is 3,000. So 12,000 is 4 times the allowed limit. But we don't test for intensity, so it doesn't matter. Just blind the shit out of people as you drive by. Any questions on this one? Because this is on the test.
So that's for tail lamps or
Both.
headlamps or, okay.
Any lamp.
Okay, but when the question would be about, like, if they say you see that E4,
They're not going to say E4. They're going to,
or whatever.
no, yeah, they do say E4. They say the vehicle comes in with a lamp, and the lamp has an E4 stamped on it. Does that pass?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Because they've been approved.
It's approved by ECE.
Yeah.
They're not gonna ask you what non-conforming.
No, if they do, it's Netherlands, but they're not going to ask you. Next one, they're going to ask you about a D1 and a D2 style bulb. Okay? So what they're referring to here is those are xenon headlights that have a glass or quartz tube filled with a special inert gas. With the electrode sealed in each end of the tube, when current is passed through the tube, the gas becomes hot and emits light. That means it has a ballast that's going to step up voltage in order to get that bad boy to ignite. Okay? Xenon gas in an HID emits a virtually full spectrum white light, so objects illuminate and appear almost the same color as they do in daylight. Xenon bulbs operate on a high voltage and alternating current. Each light assembly includes a light, ballast, starter, and sometimes an ignition unit. They will also be called D1 or D2 bulbs, gas discharge bulbs. Okay? Normal to hear humming or buzzing coming from the ballast since it's a step-up transformer. You're going to get, those are 2 questions on the state test. Car comes in with a D1 or D2 bulb. What is it? It's a gas discharge bulb. That means it's a xenon bulb. As long as it doesn't emit blue in color, it passes. Okay? You're also going to get a question that says that you got a car that has a D1 or a D2 bulb and it's humming. You hear a buzzing humming sound coming from the bulb. What does that mean? It's normal. It has a ballast. Have any of you guys ever been standing next to those green Edison boxes? Transformer. As you're like, that's the sound of electricity. Okay, that's a transformer. All right? So that's the same shit you're going to hear from a ballast coming from a car.
It's like a cooling fan.
Yeah, no, it's a ballast. If you have LEDs, it is a cooling fan. But if it's a HID, that's the ballast.
That Edison thing.
Oh, no, that's electricity. Okay? You're going to get asked a question. Sorry?
DOT approves that term light.
Because the book clearly says anything with blue tint is going to be a fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything with a
Blue tint. They also ask you, how do you dispose of a D1 or D2 light bulb?
Crush it, put it in a bag.
They're going to ask you, crush it, throw it in a bag. So the answer is to dispose of these style bulbs, place the bulb in a used plastic bag, and since they're not hazardous, place it in a normal trash container.
They have to say to put it in a...
Yeah, put it in a bag. Put it in a plastic bag, then throw it in the trash. Okay? Back in the day, they were hazardous, so you had to dispose of them through hazardous waste. Not anymore. Okay? Yeah, there's gas inside. Don't break them. Okay? I know at shops, we break them. Don't break them. Put them in a bag, throw them in the trash. Hazardous means that it's hazardous to the environment. Anybody around you, it could explode. That's why you don't throw TVs away, because if you break the glass, the cathode ray tubes can explode, and it could explode out, so it's hazardous. Don't break it, just throw it in the bag.
That was putting brake.
And one of the questions, one of the answers is they tell you to dispose of it with hazardous waste or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, you guys ready to start memorizing stuff? Here we go.
There would be no photo to pass the test without being.
Sorry guys, this stuff is, you gotta memorize it, okay? You ever take one of my classes, I'm always gonna tell you, this is the kind of stuff that you look up. State wants you to memorize this shit, so I'm telling you, you need to memorize it because it's on the test, okay? Headlights. To measure any light, you're always going to measure from the ground to the center of the light.
Center.
Doesn't matter if it's a fog light, headlight, tail lamp, you measure from the ground to the center of the light. Okay? That's written in California law. I'm not making this shit up. Headlights need to be a minimum of 22 inches, maximum 54 inches.
What about those cars when they lower it?
If it's under 22 inches, it's a fail. And if a cop pulls you over, that's a ticket. If you got to lift the truck and you're 56 inches, that's a ticket, my friend.
They're not even come to measure, right?
If the cop's a dick, he will. Yeah.
So it's like a exotic, like a Lamborghini. They're very low.
They still got to be 22.
Even though what it comes at
Even
factory.
though that's a DOT requirement. 22 inches.
Shy of 2 feet.
Yeah, so it's right there. I've seen people with lifted trucks that are on the side of the road, and the CHP guy has a fucking ruler out. Like, so if he wants to really be a dick, he'll measure your lights, then he got you.
So what about
Okay.
like those Hondas that are slammed? Are they not?
Same thing. If you get caught in a city like Ontario has had this training plus smog training. So that's why Ontario will pull you over and they'll pop your hood. And they'll cite you for intakes. They're like a smog tech. They went to smog school. Okay?
Happened to me once.
Oh, yeah. Before, they didn't give a shit. Then all these street racers started popping up, so they're like, fuck it, we got money to make. So they sent most of them to school. They all know about emission stuff and all that fun stuff.
We get all these integrators with all these drops, extensions, you know, if it's less than 22.
Tell it. And they're going to be, how do I fix it? Lift it. Bring it back to normal ride height. Yeah. Yeah. Or look for a 40-minute guy. Right? A 15-minute guy. Right? The next one, fog lamps. Minimum 12 inches, max is 30. The way that I remembered this one was the fog starts at 12:30. Okay? I try to use association, okay? So fog starts at 12:30. Minimum 12, max 30. Okay? So you guys could come up with some little lingo for yourself. Okay? Headlights 22, 54. Fog lights 12 and 30. All vehicles must be equipped with at least 2 headlights. Okay? So if one of your headlamps goes out, having your high beam on is not constituting for a second headlight. Alright? So if you're driving around hoping you're not going to pull over, you're going to get pulled over.
For driving with the high beam?
Yeah, you're not supposed to drive with high beams on the road.
Why did they put them on?
For emergency use, we're going to get there. Okay?
The same rule apply where you told us that if someone dies in an accident from a brake related issue, they're going to investigate a brake station?
Yeah, I've never heard of it, but I'm pretty sure they would.
So they'd investigate. So what if, like, let's say someone comes to my shop, they pass, then they slam their car, or they lift it, and then...
Tell 1,000 words.
Yeah, that's why pictures are your best friend. Yeah, so that's why for me, I'll tell you guys, take pictures. Car comes in, it's slammed, take some pictures. If it passes but it's slammed, you know people are going to be doubtful, take pictures. If it's lifted and you know people are going to be doubtful, take pictures. Okay, because you just never know. Hopefully nothing ever happens, but if it does, you have those pictures.
Consumer affairs, they complain and then you have a backup of...
Oh, yeah. When Bar shows up and you show them pictures, they feel like retards. They're like, fuck, I can't do anything here. And because you have pictures.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't have pictures, this is a consumer state. You're wrong. Whether you're right, you're wrong. Customer's right, you're wrong. Whether you follow all procedures and everything, you're still wrong. Okay? That's just how Bar works. Okay? No matter what, you are wrong.
You know, like when they bring parts to you, you know, and they said that
if you knew that part was going to cause that problem, why you didn't install it? So then you are liable for that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's why some shops say no customers,
Yeah, no.
buy parts.
I always tell people this, when have you gone to a restaurant and say, hey, wait, I brought my own steak, go ahead and just grill it, charge me for grilling it, right? Restaurant's gonna be like, well, you take your ass home and do it your damn self, okay? So I don't understand why shops say, no, it's okay, bring me parts. If that's the case, then you should be renting your shop out so they can use your shop to do the work. That's how I look at it. You're here to make money as a business. If you're not, then do it as a hobby.
Respect the rules.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my boss has 5 people with just brake pads, just throw brake pads on. They said, don't touch anything else.
Wouldn't do it.
The red and blue Duramax boxes.
I would not do it. When I was at the shop, we'd get those in, we'd tell them, sorry, that's shop policy, we don't do that. But that guy will do it. Go ahead, take it to him. That's it.
And they're
Okay.
gonna bring the cheapest product.
Those are the cheapest bastards, and you don't want them. Because they're gonna end up being my car didn't do that until you touched it last, okay? So when you see somebody come up with parts, they're tight ass, they're stingy ass, they're gonna be a problem. It's sad to say, I've done this for so many fucking years, they're gonna be a problem.
80% of the time, man.
You're gonna marry the fucking car. It's like trying to fix a car that's been submerged in water. Don't fucking do it, because you're gonna be married to the piece of shit.
Well, that's the performance part, right?
Even then, I wouldn't do it. Even worse, because the performance part. If I put it on, I don't know what to expect because it's not normal spec.
It'll go off the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like on diesel stuff, I increase the pressure. That
Oh yeah.
kills the whole
The high
thing.
injector pump. Even right now in California, performance shops. If you guys know anybody who has a performance shop, tell them to stop promoting, stop marketing, stop. EPA right now in California is out hot right now. Okay, and they're not giving you tickets; they're arresting shop owners because high performance shops in California are illegal. It's a violation of EPA law. So if you're doing that and you get caught, they're gonna show up to you and arrest you. That's a felony. They throw your ass in jail until you go to court or somebody bails you out. So if you know somebody has a performance shop, tell them to lay as low as fucking possible. Okay? Stop marketing. Stop putting it on social media. They're out. They're out hot right now. Okay?
In Instagram.
Oh yeah, they're hot.
Shop owner on the board. You know how they have, was it the ring guy?
Yeah.
So they went for him.
Yeah. Mhm.
Even if
So-
you're not installing parts, you're just like the middleman. I follow a channel on YouTube where they're selling, what was it, like, some
PFIP?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, they were making like a chip for Honda to increase the timing on normal stock cars for racetrack use only, and they marketed for racetrack use only.
Yeah.
EPA found out that said guy had bought it in California and it applied to a daily driven vehicle that was licensed and registered for the road use, and they tried going back to the shop saying, you sold this, and he said, no, on our website it clearly said race use only.
Mhm.
The shop wasn't making them though, right? They were just selling them?
No, I think Brent was actually making them, yeah.
So, gotta be careful with that. Okay? Let's start memorizing some more numbers so I can get you guys out here early today. They're gonna ask you, when was a high beam indicator initiated in the United States?
1940.
January 1st of 1940 was when the high beam indicator was introduced to a vehicle. Okay? 1940. A lamp must be installed per manufacturer. They're going to give you a question that says you got a headlight that's mechanically operated, opens and closes, and it's being held open with wire. That's a fail. If that was the case, they would have made the car like that from the factory, right? You want to turn them off, you go out and you take your wire off and close them. You want to open them and put your wire back on, right? If it shows up with wire, that is not a legit repair. Does that make sense? Okay?
That question, they make it so long.
Right?
Which is like, what the?
Like, wow. Yeah. Put comments. I'm telling you guys. Click in the upper right-hand corner and leave them comments. Tell them they're fucking full of shit.
Confuse you more in the sentence than what the
Yeah.
question is.
They give you this whole backstory, and in reality, it's just a headlight with wire on it.
Headlamps, retractable, those
Yeah, like the Nissans.
lamps that come up.
Hmm?
And,
The motorized ones.
yeah, and there's another question too on those.
Yeah, the one that vibrates.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a car that comes in that has wire holding a lamp on, that's a fail.
Oh, like this thing?
Yeah, like a zip tie, wire,
Oh, you can,
yeah.
like regular headlights, just.
Yeah, I've seen those. People show up, they have a fucking drywall screw holding it. It's like, come on, bro. Like, really?
Well, what
Okay.
about the plastic, that black tar or the cement that they,
JB bolt?
where they bolt the lamps?
No oil.
You know, all the body shops, they JB weld all the connections where the lamps and the bolts go.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sealant, no? Like a.
Instead of
Like an
replacing the
inhibitor?
lamp, what they do, they just use like a,
So if the housing of the lamp's been broken and they've tried to repair it with any type of adhesive, it's a fail.
Oh, like resealing?
Yeah, like you're talking about like a resealing, right?
Yeah, it's like a glue, where they glue the piece down from
It
one.
fell.
Then the light is good, it looks good, but just, you know it's broken. because-
Fell. Because that could get moisture in it.
Justify that.
You could justify that because that can allow moisture in, and you don't know how long it was open to the elements before it got repaired.
What about people who open up the lamp, like headlight lamp, to paint the, I don't know, like the lining black?
Fell. Just with the black lighting, it's already a fell. Because that takes away the visibility of the light. Question?
If the car has been hit in the back and they just put a new lamp, they don't fix the problem, so they come up with just with a new lamp.
That's a great question because that's a question on the state test. You're going to get a car that comes in, got rear-ended, you got two lights, both of them are within spec, but one of them's higher than the other. That car fails.
What about all the same, though?
Both lights have to be equal height.
Even if the car is all damaged?
Even if the car's all damaged, if they're both equal height, it passes. Yeah.
even if I mean.
So the question says that they're off, but they're in spec, right? So that's a fail. They've got to be equal height.
So in other words,
So if one's 16, the other one's got to be 16
in other words, they gotta fix the body from the,
to align both lights.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then,
So-
okay.
So they got to pull it.
What about like those old Toyota pickups that had a truck bed, they pulled it off, built a flatbed, and used the factory lights and sideways and mounted those in?
So as long as they're within height. And if the light, for some reason, that rear light has something that says top, it's a fail. Because that means that light has orientation and is not in its proper orientation, so it's a fail.
So it's the same thing, but they use the round light.
So if they use a round light, that'll be acceptable as long as they're within spec. Height distance.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So oxidized lamps can be restored. So they're going to give you a question that says the vehicle comes in, one headlight's new, the other one's oxidized. What do? Clean it.
It can be restored?
Yeah. Dude, you know how much money I used to make with oxidation cleaning? Beautiful. Okay. Well, I didn't do it. The other guy did it. So you, I sold it, but he did it, right?
Density is not.
They look good.
We're not checking intensity, but when they're oxidized, you can't see the pattern on the aimer.
Okay.
So it's a fail. Yeah.
What about the customer saying, no, I clean it, that's all.
That's fine. Then you pay me the reinspection when you bring it back.
That's a good point. You cannot recommend that for that oxidation, the lamp. What do you recommend, the lamp to be replaced?
So when it's oxidized, usually I tell my customers this. You got two options. The cheapest option is I go ahead and try to clean them and restore them. If that doesn't work, then we got to buy the light. Or you can just buy the light. It's up to you. Okay? And then if you guys know, like a aftermarket parts house that does body shops, you can get the headlamps for cheap. We used to use one in San Bernardino. We used to get headlamps for 50%, 60% off retail. Okay, so then you can install it and still make a good buck. First thing is you offer the oxidation repair. You buy the 3M kit for headlight restoration. It's about $100 for the kit. It's fucking amazing. It does amazing work. Okay. Usually what I would do is sell it. They approved it. Then we'd pass it on to the labor guy. He would do it. Then I'd get it back, re-inspect it, adjust them, and then send it on its way. Okay.
So you
could do that.
inspection fee all over again, even if it's just for the...
No. If I did the restoration, no. And that was a $100 restoration for both lights.
You have to take them off, correct?
Nope. On the car. So you just mask, use a 3M polish.
And, with the spray can?
Oh, hell no. Shows up with clear HUD and No, hell no.
Charged to clean it.
I was charging $100 for the pair.
But you don't charge for adjustment.
But the adjusting's already included with your inspection. Yeah. So it was $200 for the inspection, $100 for the cleaning, so $300 if nothing else needed to be done.
Only plastic ones are getting oxidized, right?
Yeah, if it's the glass ones, you're replacing it.
Does glass get oxidized?
They usually get water in them, so then you got to replace them.
Before I forget, shop supply, on the invoice.
You cannot charge shop supplies in California. That needs to be included in your price, yes. So the question is that you got to return taxes money, or you got to explain to them that taxes is not included in the estimate, and you got to refund them shop supplies because that's illegal.
So what I can say about those Toyota things, they put the same lamp that wasn't that bad at the beginning, and you can see it say top, but it's already flipped.
Fail. Because it's not in its proper orientation. So if the lamp's marked top, it needs to be facing up. Okay, and if it's laying down, it's a fail.
Can you repeat that, what you said about having to refund them for the supplies?
So there's a question that comes up, says that you did an inspection and the customer comes back and says, why did you charge them tax? And why are you charging shop supplies? What are you supposed to do? Your answer would be you're going to refund shop supplies because legally you can't charge extra for shop supplies that need to be already included in your price. And you got to explain to them that taxes are not included in an estimate in California. So I just gave you like the complete answer for one question on the
Not
face.
included on the estimate.
Never.
Just the taxes on
So that's what the estimate is.
Parts and labor are included, but not taxes.
But that's only for brake stations? Is that
Anybody.
And
automotive?
On the automotive shop. If you give an estimate, you don't include taxes.
No, I mean the not being able to charge the customer for supplies.
You cannot charge shop supplies separately.
so, but the thing is, if you say,
Plus tax, yes.
if you say $200 for breaking lamp inspection,
taxes.
and the question is, you charge taxes for those 200?
Oh, no, you did a service. You did a repair.
Now you're supposed to charge.
But what are you gonna return the money?
You do charge taxes, but you're explaining to the customer that taxes are not included on the estimate.
Yeah.
Because the question says that on the estimate, they weren't included, but they're included now on the invoice. So the customer's asking why. So you tell them on an estimate in California, you don't include tax. And then you refund shop supplies because you cannot charge separate for shop supplies. So if shop supplies go up, your labor rate goes up. Or let's say you're going to do a brake job and you need to add brake clean and all that stuff, a can of brake clean, so it's like $10 more. If your brake pads are 60 and you're going to sell them for $120, sell it for $130 to cover your $10.
Or you got the taping clean and they charge you $100 a month.
Incorporate that into your normal operating costs.
So then the thing would be, the customer wants the money back for the taxes or?
No, just for the taxes, you just explain to them that taxes you don't put on an estimate, and you're going to refund the money for shop supplies, because you can't charge for shop supplies.
And what about the environmental fee?
You could charge that, but it needs to be listed. All right.
Well, shop supply would be already included in the labor.
If you're including it, yes, which you should.
So then, somebody say shop supply, that shouldn't be, so that money has to be refunded.
Mm-hmm. Lamps do not need to be replaced in pairs. So if there's a question that comes up in relation to the oxidation, you don't have to replace them in pairs. You could do one at a time. Diffuse lighting, as long as no red to the front. What's diffuse lighting?
Neon lights in the bottom.
You guys asked me about neon lights on the car, right? It can have them as long as you don't have red facing forward. Who uses red facing forward?
Ambulance.
Law enforcement and ambulances, emergency vehicles. You can get a fat-ass citation for having red facing the front for imitating a peace officer. Okay? You don't want that. Does that make sense? Okay? Dual pair headlamps are considered one lamp. So you guys remember the old Chevys that used to have one square light and another square light on each side? Those two are considered one lamp.
Chevy Blazers.
Okay? Old Chevy Blazers, the old 1500s, used to have 4 rectangular lamps. All 4 of those, or 2 of those, is considered one. Okay?
You said you do that on a 20-foot.
Do they? I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they're doing like a retro design.
Oh, gotcha. They went back to throttle body injection and shit?
Carburetor.
High beam is to project at least 350 feet. So your headlight has to be able to go at least 350 feet in front of the vehicle. Do you need to measure that? Your aimer does that. Okay? That's why you know if the light is bad, because it's not going to give you the right image on your aimer. Okay? So that's one of the things we can figure out using the aimer. Your low beam has to project an object at least 100 feet. Headlights need to be white in color only, and forward-facing lights may be white or yellow. So any light facing the front, okay, other than a headlight, can be white or yellow. Yellow, we mean amber, that little orangey color. Okay? So looking at this light, do you have an amber light in the front?
Yes.
Do you have a white light?
Yes.
Okay? See the difference? So today when you guys are driving home, you're going to be paying attention to it. Right?
You're gonna pay attention to everything.
Yeah. You'll be like, oh man, I could have made money off that guy, that guy. If I was a cop, I'd get him, that one, right?
Then you're rearing somebody.
Fuck! Your lights were out, man. Here's my card. Alright, if the headlights are dim, check for discharge battery, corrosion on the socket, connectors, low voltage, output of the charging system. How do you diagnose a Xeon D1 or D2 bulb? Here's the whole procedure, okay? Is this any different than a normal headlight? No. All you're doing is checking presence of voltage or voltage test. Then you're doing voltage drop on the ground and on the power side. If those two are good and the light still doesn't turn on, what's the problem? The bulb. If it's a Xeon light, it's not the bulb. What's the problem? Ballast. If you have power and ground to the ballast and the bulb's not turning on, it's the ballast. Never use a voltmeter to check the output voltage of a ballast. Okay? Unless you want to buy a new voltmeter and you want to use that as an excuse, go for it. Okay? Because you're going to blow the shit out of your meter or the fuse.
25,000 volts.
Yeah, it's a lot of voltage. Okay? So you don't use your voltmeter to check output voltage on it. At that point, you got to put a new bulb, and if it doesn't light, it's the ballast. Make sense? Okay? If you have to replace a sealed beam light, you're going to adjust it at no extra cost. Once you have a car that comes in with a sealed beam light, you replace the light, you got to re-aim it. Those lights also have a metal bezel that goes around it. Once you reinstall the bezel, you got to recheck the aim. Because usually when you put the bezel back on, you fucked up the aim. Okay? You're going to be there a while. Alright? So you're going to do a couple of adjustments, put the bezel on. Bring your aimer, check it. If it didn't move, you're done. If it moved, take the bezel back off, readjust it, put it back on.
I had a question real quick. If a vehicle's coming in for an inspection and you see that one of the light bulbs are out and you want to check to see if it's a bulb, say on a 2013 Fusion where you have to remove the damn bumper to change out the headlight, do you have to let the customer know that?
Yeah. For that, yeah. Because that's going to be added work.
Removing a bumper, you can charge them.
So if you got to remove stuff like that, you also got to get authorization.
That's like
Yeah,
the doghouse for...
Yeah, because now you're going to start taking shit apart. Okay?
That's time and labor, right?
That's time and labor you're going to... Yeah.
Like
So you better hope that you don't have to take it off. Because then you're going to have to go talk to the customer. Okay? You're going to get a question that says that if you get a sealed beam that has a cracked aiming pad or a chipped aiming pad, what do you do? First of all, what the hell is an aiming pad? So those lights have 3 nipples on it, okay, in a diamond shape.
I thought they were just because, I don't know, is that true?
No, right? When they produced it, they forgot to shave them off. So there used to be an aimer, a mechanical aimer that had a suction cup that put a diamond around those 3 points, and it got suctioned onto the light. And the aimer was sticking out, and it had mirrors. Based off of the mirrors, it had an adjustment, and that's how you were adjusting your lights. Those are still approved, by the way. They're called Hoppy headlight aimers. The problem is you can only do seal beams with it.
You know what?
So, seal beams. So they have to be that style light. So if you get a car that has a composite light, you can't check lights.
I was going to say, because my buddy has a 2003 Crown Vic. His are composite lights, but he has those little
Some do.
things. And he actually had them shaved down to have
the adapters.
and he had to get a brake and lamp inspection, and they said, oh, you failed because of that.
So, let me finish that off so we can get to the point of that. If those aiming pads are chipped, you can still continue with the inspection as long as you're using an optical aimer, which is what we're going to use today. Okay? So your buddy's case, the shop he went to, the only aimer they had was that style, mechanical. So that's why they failed them. If you guys ask me, get yourself an optical aimer so you have no excuses. I don't know about you guys, but I don't plan on opening a shop to only be able to service certain cars. It's kind of retarded,
that
right?
won't be a fail. As long as you can.
As long as you have an optical aimer, you can still aim it and still pass. Okay?
Was that a question?
That's a question on the test. Yeah.
What?
Chip pad on a light. What do? You continue with the inspection using an optical aimer.
So you can actually have your shop open for service with that old style aimer?
Yeah, but you can only do cars that have that style light.
How does BAR even approve that? It's like having a smock shop without a BAR 97 per se, or without either. No?
They approve those too.
Oh, they're not star.
Yeah, that's BAR. Repair only station. Oh, the optical aimer. We're gonna use the Symantec one. Okay, how many guys own an aimer, ever used an aimer, or ever aimed headlights? Okay, which one are you guys using?
The orange one?
Like that one? The Symantec?
The electrical, yeah.
Oh, you got the one with the up arrows and all that? All the bells and whistles? Okay. So anytime you do a headlight aim, you should always be checked, okay? And you should always do both sides. Don't just do one and not the other. Okay, yesterday I was asked, what do they do on undercovers? That's usually one of them. One light is good, and the other one's way the fuck off. And usually techs only check one light, and for some fucking reason, it's always the good one. Yeah, okay? And then they leave the bad one bad, and that's how BAR knows you didn't do your job. Okay? So it's that simple, alright?
Who's using aimers besides brake stations?
In California, it's just that. That's about it. Other states are required during their normal annual inspections. Yeah. Okay, so if you don't have a headlamp aimer, you're going to have to buy yourself an aiming screen. Would I recommend that? Absolutely not. The screen is stupid expensive, plus you need 25 feet in front of the car to use an aiming screen, which is another question on the state test. How many feet are required in front of a vehicle to use an aiming screen? 25 feet. Congratulations, you got another right answer.
But it's not listed here.
It's in there.
Okay.
Okay? So whenever you're going to use the aiming screen, you got to center the vehicle, okay, and then center it to the screen, turn on both lights, and then you're going to adjust it using the screen. Okay? I don't know about you guys, that sounds very complicated. For me, I like using my aimer. Why? I got to do one measurement once, document the measurement, and then I just have to recalibrate my position, move my aimer wherever I need it, make my adjustments, and put the shit away. Okay? Easier. This is on an aiming screen. Okay? We can see where the vertical lines are. Okay, this is the height of the center lamp, and then right lamp should be here as far left. So this is why this one's super complicated, because you need to know specifically where does this beam need to hit. They don't ask you any questions on this. Okay? I don't teach this because I've never used one. Never used an aiming screen in my whole career. I've always used an optical aimer.
Ask about the distance.
They're only going to ask you about the distance. Okay? So, we're going to be using that bad boy right there, the Symantec SCA1. So in order to do a measurement with an optical aimer, before you use it, you need to know the slope of the shop in which you are going to be using it. Okay? When BAR comes out to the shop, they're going to tell you, where's your designated testing area? And you need to point it out to them. Okay? And you should already have an area in which you're going to use specifically for that purpose. If you got a shop with multiple lifts, choose a lift, and that lift and bay is only for braking lamp. The reason I say that is because every time you move the machine to another bay, you got to redo this. Okay, and it takes some time. Okay?
You gotta redo what?
The slope. Okay, no matter how level your shop looks, there has some sort of slope. It's either sloping down, to the right, to the left, or forward. Okay? Just happens, right? Remember, guys make these floors, and they're human. Okay, so it looks okay, but it's not okay, right? So we got to aim it. Remember I told you guys to get some yardsticks? We're going to use yardsticks today. One yardstick goes at the rear wheel at 12 o'clock. The other yardstick goes at the front wheel at 12 o'clock. I'm going to lower the head of my optical aimer all the way to the bottom, and there's a laser that comes with it that sits on top. I turn on the laser, and the laser gives me a beam that goes across. I need to move the adjustment wheel, which has a lever on it, until I have the same measurement in the front at 12 o'clock and the rear at 12 o'clock. Once they're at the same measurement, I have calculated the slope properly. My machine is now calibrated. So at that point now, I can raise the head and then aim it to one of the lights so that way I could take proper aim. Until you do that, you're not going to be using that machine. Because then your aim is going to be all over the fucking place.
Is
Okay.
calibration a one-man job?
No, you need two people.
So it's only for the front two?
You're doing front and rear wheel
Or on one side only?
on one side.
12.
12 o'clock. So that yardstick at 12, this yardstick at 12. Okay? If you want to do it by yourself, you can. It's going to take longer. Usually two people process. Okay? Once you've measured the slope, usually what I do, get a permanent marker and mark it on your adjustment wheel. So this way you already know. Right? Or you guys want to redo the whole measurement process every time you get a car. Okay?
The adjustment wheels on the...
The adjustment wheel's on there, it's on the back, and it has a handle. Okay, and then it has a white markings on it, so you can just mark it. Mark it where it needs to be, and then every so often double check the calibration. Okay? When you guys buy these, they usually give you a template. If you don't have one, make one. You guys know how to use Excel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, make yourself a chart. The chart's going to have name of tech, okay, the date, and if you calibrated it or not. The reason I want you guys to do that is so this way you have proof that the machine got calibrated for slope. Bar shows up, you have a binder that says, bro, I just calibrated this shit. So there's a problem here. It's either on your guys' end, I doubt it's on mine because they got calibrated.
How often?
Okay?
Every time it's dropped.
Honestly, they say every time it's dropped. I used to do it every inspection. But just because I had it pre-marked, all I had to do was put my yardstick, take the measurement, go to the front one, measurement was on point, put my shit away, and I was done. And then just sign my log. Okay? So that's the way you can do it. That's what I'm telling you, mark it. If not, you have to go and hold it, and then you're going to be there for half an hour setting the slope before you even start the inspection. So now your 2-hour inspection is going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. Does that make sense?
So that aimer has to be specific in one area based on the
Slope.
slope that is going to be used.
Okay, so whatever bay you select, that's the bay you're always going to use it in. If you move bays, then you got to redo everything.
It has to be inside the base, so it can't be like
It has to be inside. It can't be outside.
your parking lot.
Yeah, it has to be inside.
It's like the small machines, it has to be in a designated area.
Yep. And then if you try to do it outside because of ambient light, it's going to affect the way that you see the light anyway. So you got to do it inside. Okay. At the center point of the front wheel, the vehicle measures distance from the floor to the point where the laser stick strikes the taper wheel and record. So we're going to do the same thing, front and rear. We got to make sure we're at the same point. Once we're at that point, we'll mark it on the adjustment wheel, and we're golden. We're ready to roll. Okay? So when you guys are looking at your screen, so your aimer is going to have a window, a glass window. In that window on the back end, you're going to have that screen. Okay? That right there is a front headlight being pointed into the aimer. That is what you should be seeing every time you have a good light and lens. That pattern. Okay? I call it the lake. It looks kind of like a lake, right? Yeah, it kind of looks like a golf course. Okay? So we're looking here. This is our adjustment window. This little dot right here, there should always be a gray or an open circle that usually encases that. That's telling you that it's properly aligned. Okay? If it's off, then you need to make adjustments on your lights based off of the adjustment capability your lights have. Not all lights can go vertical, and not all lights can go horizontal. Some do both, some only do one. Some don't move at all. Okay? So, that's all on you. You have to make that judgment call. Okay? Today, I was asking around, and it doesn't exist. I asked for a manual that gives you guys specifications on adjustment points. Doesn't exist. Mitchell doesn't have shit. So you got to make the call. Is this light adjustable or not? Okay? Once we go outside, I'll show you guys how to kind of check that.
What about like the high-end European cars with the
Self-adjusting? So at that point, you have to make sure that they self-adjust properly, and then you still use your aimer. If they're off, then probably it needs a calibration.
And you do that with the rear camera?
Yep. Okay?
Also, back to the making the logs for the calibration for the aimer. If I don't know how to use Excel, what else can I use?
If you know how to use Excel, you can use Google Docs. I use Google Docs, and you can make a chart. You can do it that way. Or just get yourself a piece of paper and draw out a chart. Anything that you can put together, that's documentation, is going to save you guys. So if you're not computer savvy, you can just draw it out. Okay?
Office Depot has those.
count them.
Oh yeah, you can get like an accountant book with the columns, and you can use that as well. A ledger, right, or some shit like that. Yeah. Question.
But if the light, one of the light is off, we can just tell it and
You have to adjust it. Part of your inspection includes adjustment. So if the light's off, you're adjusting it. You can't feel it.
What does it mean by off?
So it's up or down.
Oh.
So those cars that have, like what you mentioned, like they go up and down, with, they can go out of adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And then you,
So that would either be one of the height sensors, or you need to calibrate it
yeah, because they're based on the sensor that has in the,
Mhm.
under the
under the car.
car.
Yep. Okay. And then continue with. Repeat your question one more time.
if one of the light is
Okay.
off, we don't know how to adjust it.
So having the lights off doesn't justify a failure, because as a lamp inspector, you're inspecting and adjusting headlamps. Okay? So that means if we aim it, we put the aimer on, one's okay, we go to the opposite side and it's up, you got to calibrate it. You can't just be, oh, that's a fail, let me go charge them. Nope. You're adjusting it. You got to adjust it. Now, if it won't take adjustment because the screws are broken or something like that, now I can fail it. So then now I got to go to the customer and tell them, okay, I tried adjusting your lights, they won't adjust, I need to replace the mechanism. What does that cost? I got to replace the whole headlight assembly. Okay? According to the state of California, you have a plus or minus 4-inch variance, meaning that the lights could be up or down by 4 inches max. Okay?
But shouldn't it be equal?
They should be equal. But if for some reason you aim them and they're off and that's the best you can get, as long as they're within 4 inches, you're fine. Okay? Plus or minus 4 inches. Okay? Right here, from here to here, that's 4 inches.
From where to where?
From this inner box to this lower box, that's 4 inches. So if it sits outside or lower than that box, it's off by 4 inches.
That little center.
So this center dot right here is in the middle, right? So if this dot is somewhere down here, you're out of the plus or minus 4 range, that's a fail. So now you got to adjust it, okay? So you're going to fail it, but still adjust it and then pass it, because that's your job. You got to adjust them, right? So anytime you get a headlight that's out of adjustment, you got to adjust it. If it doesn't take adjustment, now I can fail it, okay?
What about if we don't know how to adjust it? And we just tell them, you know what, go somewhere else, I don't want to deal with it.
Nope. Sadly, no. So usually it's pretty easy to adjust the light. What you're going to do is take a flashlight, look at the back of the housing. Usually there's going to be a screw that's up and then a screw that's like this, and this one does side to side and this one does up and down. Okay? It's either going to be a 10 millimeter, a hex, or a Phillips. Okay? And then all you got to adjust it. The older Chryslers used to be my favorite because they actually had a thumb wheel, and all you had to do, and you didn't even need a machine because they had a vial. Okay, it had a little level, so all you had to do was jack it up about 4 inches, 6 inches according to the manufacturer. Car was level, and just, all right, cool, fucking put the jack down, car was done. You didn't have to take out the aimer, okay?
And you'd make note of that I adjusted it, right?
Yeah.
Did you have to write how many degrees you...
By man specs. So Chrysler at that point would tell you jack it up 6 inches, car was level, and then you can adjust the headlights.
I mean, on the invoice, you would note down how much degrees you adjusted it.
That was on my tech notes. So always keep some technician notes of some sort of every procedure you did, so you could document that, and then you keep that with the work order.
So that means we're gonna get another cover with our adjustment light,
Mhm.
we have to adjust the light and then pass the car?
Yeah, it's gonna have more problems, but that's one of them.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Why would a headlamp be misadjusted?
Somebody tampered with it, or somebody took it off, put it back on, and didn't know how to readjust it, or the car was in an accident.
Can you
Yeah.
charge extra for the adjustment of the?
Nope.
No?
It's included.
So some won't have the screws, like any type of way to adjust it?
There'll be some that come in that have no adjustment, and then you just gotta document that. At that point would be take some pictures and document it. Vehicle had no adjustment for the headlights.
The Q,
Nissan? No adjustment?
or what is it, XP?
Oh yeah, Scion?
Remember that when they were like,
Yeah.
okay, I had to change them both, but I tried adjusting them and...
They have an adjustment, because I've adjusted mine. They're just kind of tricky, yeah. You need, for that one, you really need an aimer.
So another cover car is gonna fail,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they're there for.
Okay.
That's the
Mhm.
purpose.
I can't tell you all the details, but it's definitely gonna fail.
Definitely gonna fall.
Mhm.
On the HID, you cannot get that powder, right?
No,
So how do you,
you can't.
okay.
If it has an HID, according to California, it's illegal. So this is why the D1, D2 questions threw me off guard, because if you guys read the manual, it says that a xenon bulb is illegal in California. But yet they're asking you questions, and some factories come with xenon bulbs. So
But if it, the headlight is not adjustable, but still you have to put that in. It's of the, plus minus 4 inches, but it's not adjustable, and it's not adjustable
not adjustable vehicle fails.
for vehicle failure.
If it's if it's off by 8 inches, that's a fail. So then at that point, you're gonna have to figure out, how am I gonna get these shits within range?
I have a car that finally uses it on business there.
So but it
Yeah.
should be a fail.
Yeah, so that would be a fail. And then at that point, you are the lamp adjuster, so you have to come up with a solution.
Yeah, because a lot of times
That's the crazy part.
Remove the whole pillow.
Uh-huh. Like the round seal beams?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They're like round, and they're like kind of bluey, so I don't even know what the difference is now. Like HID or is it?
If it has a blue tint, that would be xenon. That'd be fail. And it's in the book. It's in the lamp book. It's in the adjuster book. Yeah.
So if a headlamp's not adjustable, why would it misadjust?
And the accident.
Car was in an accident, and then they didn't stretch it properly, or you got a weak suspension on one side, something like that.
That was a question about
Or now,
screw not being able to use it.
Yeah, if you can't move your adjustment screw, then that's a fail, and then you got to replace that. You're gonna get a question too that's asking you what kind of lubricant should you use on the screw. Okay, it's silicone based, which would be the brand that is that lubricant is Liquid Wrench. So it's a silicone based lubricant.
so the answer will be silicone based.
Silicone based lubricant, which is AKA Liquid Wrench.
If you got, if you got an undercover, and you suspect it's an undercover, and you just want to fail the car, and you tell them, you know what, the car don't pay me anything, just go.
Nope. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. Because at that point, they're going to assume that you knew somehow, and they're going to come audit you.
Yeah.
So you just basically told them, come check me. So what you do in a situation, if you feel it's an undercover, is you let them know, hey, you know what, I don't have any certificates, man, I'm sorry, I can't perform your inspection.
And you can realize that, like, later on in the test, or?
I would do it from the get-go. Don't get halfway through the test and then be like, fuck, yeah.
Fuel gonna try to get you back.
No, well, see, the thing with undercovers, without getting too into detail, is they have a predetermined list. They're going to hit you, and then once they hit you, whether you do it or not, they're not coming back to you for a while. Unless they really want you, they'll be back within days. Okay, but most of the time, they're not coming back until your name pops up on the list again. So that's how it works.
I've been told they come in all shapes and sizes, so you might be expecting an Asian guy in a black community, but it might be a black guy.
That's why I told you guys, the person doesn't fit the car, and the two people don't fit the area. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, okay. So it happens. You're going to see them. Okay, just remember that. The person doesn't fit the car, and the car and the person don't fit the area. Okay, the one shop I was telling you guys in Linwood, Asian guy, brand new Toyota Tacoma in Linwood for a braking lamp. Okay.
How does the car, was it like salvage or just?
But
How does he, why does he come, like, why does he need it?
he needs a braking lamp.
Why?
He just tells you I need a braking lamp. Okay.
And you know.
But a lot of times,
Well, I would have known if I was a shop owner, I would have known right off the bat. But unfortunately, I can't tell you why. But he didn't catch that right off the bat.
The registration says you need braking.
There's a possibility that might be it right there.
yeah, but the thing is, like, a lot of times, we are not the owners, you know what I mean? Like, we have service riders, sometimes there are more than one. And suddenly you got a ticket, You even knew who the person is. You didn't happen to see it.
So that's when you got to train your service advisor. Okay, what I used to do at the shop was I would ask my service advisor to give me as much information out of that car as I could. Usually what I requested was DMV documentation and the pink slip. What color is a salvage title pink slip? Red. Red and yellow.
Yep.
It has a red trim and yellow face
And they
instead
only
of
send one print
instead of blue and gray.
Sometimes they send two undercovers.
They usually send one. Yeah. Because
Sometimes the pink,
what?
sometimes the pink slip will be clean title because the car hasn't been re-registered, so it's not technically salvaged yet. I think that's what happened with mine.
So if it left the state, they're trying to fix that loophole. There is a loophole that you can get around that.
Well, I
But-
bought a car. Like, I bought a 1998 RAV4, and it was damaged. I bought it, and I fixed it. And in order to register it to my name, I needed to do a braking lamp inspection. If they would have asked me for my pink slip, I would have had it. It would have said clean title.
Okay.
Because it was a clean title until I register it, then it's like it's registered as salvage.
Okay. So you are like the 1% of people that actually do things before you need it. Most of my customers showed up to me like, I just went to DMV, man. They told me I need this shit. I don't know what the fuck it is. Go ahead and do it. And then I would get all the paperwork, DMV's invoices, receipts, and all that, and BAR's not going to have that.
I won't have pink slip?
Nope.
Wait, so you could ask them for registration if you need to?
Yeah.
They don't have to give us a pink slip. I mean, if you're it's not an obligation.
99% of the cars I've inspected for braking lamp showed up with a packet, and the packet had a pink slip, DMV paperwork, because they just left whoever was doing their
You
DMV
don't
stuff.
see that means something,
Mm-hmm.
correct? That's because they keep always.
Okay.
Well, you have to pay attention to always some form of a packet that's associated with it.
All the time. All the cars I used to get, they show up. Sometimes they even have the insurance card on there. It was like, cool. I felt more comfortable seeing all that paperwork. The cars I didn't get that paperwork were the cars that I worked harder to try to find something.
And that was the one that you had certificate.
And that's the one that is like, okay, cool, I found some shit, let me go sell it to them. Okay? BAR, if you sell them a repair, they're not going to pay for it. For a braking lamp, they're usually not going to pay for it. They're just going to tell you, okay, cool, just sell me. And then you do all the paperwork, sell them, and then they'll leave, and they'll never come back.
Wait, they say you can,
What's that?
They pay cash too, they said.
Oh, but they're not going to have problems that are not road worthy.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
They said they pay cash too.
And they pay cash.
They pay cash.
Wait, so they leave it fails as long as it's not like a...
Yeah, as long as the car's not going to fucking kill somebody down the street, you can let them leave. Yeah. All right? Okay. So this is what we want to see with our low beams. We want to see this area right here. Generally, this white circle, we want to see it around that dot right there on the outside of that particular box. Okay? That's the beautiful thing of an optical aimer. Once you start using it, you know how to use it, and everything's the same with every individual car. If you're doing fog lamps, you're going to adjust them, and the fog lamp needs to take up this small area right here at the bottom. Okay? So the vehicle has fog lamps from factory. When it comes to you, it needs to have fog lamps. Okay? Why? Because it left the factory with fog lamps.
I told you that before, like.
Okay, we talked about this before. Now, if you get a car that comes in and somebody put aftermarket fog lamps, they need to be wired properly. If they're not, that's a fail. And if they have them, they got to meet the 12 and 30-inch requirement. So if somebody added fog lights, they need to be wired properly, and then they need to be within the 12 and 30-inch requirement. Okay?
I was going to ask, for the low beam, is that on the inner side portion of the center line of the vehicle?
No. So you're aiming, you're aligning your aimer to the midmost portion of the beam. So once we get out there, I'll show you guys how to get that set up.
Circle is what I'm asking for. Is it both sides, or is it just on that one?
It's going to be on that one side.
Okay,
Yeah. No matter what side of the car you're on, it's going to be on that particular dot.
on that bottom right corner.
Mm-hmm.
So the white dot, in this case, I don't know what color it is, but that right there is the one that.
That's where we
The
need.
guidance.
That's our guide. That little circle right there. Okay.
But we don't see it on the folks driving.
No. So on the fog light, you're going to see it right here. This is where you want your fog light to be. Because your fog light's usually going to be illuminating the bottom, right, of the lowermost portion of the light on your car. Because your headlight beam does this. So that gap in between here and here is covered by your fog light. Right? That's why your fog light is measuring a lot lower based off of the position compared to our normal light.
But
You guys
about
see that?
I mean, the aftermarket running light, or the one that you can add it up, you know what I mean, for, that one doesn't have to be aimed.
Driving lights. You're talking like light bar?
Yeah, it's those light, I mean, the other.
Yeah, if it's a light bar, you're not going to aim it, but it needs to be within the height requirement and the right
Yeah,
amount.
all those brands, you know,
Mhm.
like. no,
And the
that's-
KC ones, as long as they're within the proper height and they're wired right, it's fine. We're going to get to wiring tomorrow. Okay? Alright. Whenever you guys issue a certificate, this is what your certificate of compliance looks like. BC means this is a brake certificate. Vehicle identification number or VIN number goes here. License plate number goes there. Registered owner's name goes there. Why do you think I had the excuse to ask for the DMV registration? So I know who's the registered owner because I need to put their name on there. Not the kid who drove it down for his dad. I need his dad's name.
What do they do?
So,
Have my registration.
Cool. I need it. Can you do me a favor?
With the smog, a lot of them say, oh, I don't have anything.
Yeah, but with the smog, we don't need it, right?
Yeah, because,
Yeah. With the braking lamp, I do.
We need the registration.
I need your registration because I need the registered owner's name.
So that's before you bring in the car.
Yeah.
so you cannot do.
You can use it. It's not mandatory, but use it to your advantage. Yeah. So if they call you and be like, "Oh, I don't have it," I need a copy of it because your certificate has to have the registered owner's name.
So like a picture.
Yeah.
So the undercover doesn't gonna bring the registration?
They're gonna bring one. But that's it. The reason why I'm asking for it is because the car's a salvage. It usually has the pink slip and everything else with that.
So they,
If it doesn't have it, mean that it's something.
Because if you get a car that comes in and there's no salvage, there's no braking lamp request from DMV, then that's kind of weird,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't fit.
We'll bring it.
Okay?
and then, so do they drive salvage cars?
No.
No? Okay, so.
Yeah, from my, make.
Okay?
The person bringing the car for inspection doesn't have to be the registered owner, right?
No, but you need the name of the registered owner. Huh?
So we can check the Carfax to see if it's a salvage car.
Can't help you on that one. you can.
They're trying to get,
Yeah.
figure out bar.
I can't talk more on that one. You guys can figure that out on your own. So right here on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, let's finish this up, guys. We get out of here. So right here on the left-hand side, the purpose of the certificate: are you doing a brake adjustment, clearance of enforcement document, registration of reconstructed vehicle, or other? If the car is in for a salvage title, what are you going to check off? Reconstruction of vehicle. Okay. So you're going to re-register a reconstructed vehicle. Over here on this side, we have a chart. Air, vacuum, hydraulic, mechanical, and electric. Which ones are you choosing? Why mechanical?
No, electric.
Why electrical?
Nice.
Oh, hydraulic, yeah.
What was the question?
This is for brakes, right? So
That would be hydraulic.
we got a 2006 Nissan Sentra outside. What are you checking for brake system? That's it.
What if it's drunk? Yeah.
No? If it's mechanical, that's going to be like a Model T
Yeah.
that has wires to each individual wheel and you're using a lever to stop the car. That's mechanical, right?
If it's electro.
If it's electric, that would be an electric trailer. Electro-hydraulic is still considered hydraulic. So we would be hydraulic at that point, right? Air. Who uses air?
18 wheeler.
Big rigs.
Yeah.
Okay? Vacuum. Who uses vacuum?
Big rig.
Big rigs. Okay? And hydraulic, that's us. Then here we have inspect, adjust, and repair. If I did my inspection, I'm going to check it right there. If I did any sort of brake adjustment, I'm going to check off adjustment. If I had to do a brake service, rotors and pads, then I can check off repair.
So in that instance, if you haven't, you inspect it, adjust, and then also had to do a repair, you'd be checking off.
All three of them. Yep. Okay? If you only did an inspection, everything was good, no adjustment, only check off inspection.
So every
Yes.
time,
They follow like a record of how many repairs you did, how many adjustments, or not really?
No, they only follow how many certificates you buy.
If they come out of you, they're gonna.
If they come out of you, that's the first thing they ask you for. So you know how smog shops, the first thing they ask us for is invoices? At a break and lamp center, they're like, I need to see your certificate books. And what they're looking for is if you fucked up on any which way, shape, or form on what you marked off.
Or if you're not marking.
Or you're marking shit that's not even there.
Yeah, like, but electric, so we'll have that electric, no.
If you have a trailer with electric brakes, yes.
That will be electric.
Uh-huh.
So I have the pretty much the two one that we, with the class C, we're gonna be using.
Yeah,
Will be hydraulic and electric.
and electric.
Electric one is the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But then one thing, okay, does the specific vehicle fail for some reason and they don't wanna repair it? When it comes back later, do you have to grant another certificate? Or
You don't issue a certificate unless the car passes. So the car fails, you don't fill this out.
You keep it.
Yeah, you don't fill this out until the car's gonna pass.
So,
So you do your full inspection, and then if everything's good, then you fill that out
until everything's done.
until everything's done. So after you do my 2 checklists, then you can sign these off.
If we don't
But-
use them, like,
O sea, nothing
if the
even,
customer came and then say, oh, where's my certificate? If it fails, give it to me.
no certificate.
No certificate. Give them a copy of
You
your
know, like in
inspection
smoke,
report.
but you give them the proof that.
Yeah, it's not like a vehicle inspection report for smog where you can give them a filled one. We don't do that here.
If they lose a certificate, you have to charge them again.
Yeah. Yep. And then these are only valid like a smog certificate for 90 days.
If you lose the certificate and you need to make another one, you need to re-inspect the vehicle again?
I would.
Yeah. Like they said, let's say that they bring the car today, and they come back to you like a week after, and they say, you know what, I got the certificate,
That's great, man. You owe me some money.
can you give me another one?
Nope.
Even if I charge them more? Like,
I
already inspect the car?
so I've done making copies, and DMV laughed, and they gave it back to them and told them to go back to the shop. So they came back, and I was like, well, the only thing I could do, man, is re-inspect it and give you another paper.
Re-inspect it, so you need the vehicle back again, right?
Hmm?
But you can give up copies, right?
I gave him a copy, but DMV told him to shove his copy up, you know what? Yeah. Yeah, because they want the original.
You have it yourself, the one you picked?
Yeah, so I gave him a copy from my book. Yeah. So at the shop,
Two pieces, no?
yeah, because there's 2 copies. They get the white one, you keep the yellow or the pink. At my shop, because I was a brake and lamp inspector, these were locked up in my box. So I was fully responsible for the certificates at the shop that I was at. So if something happened to the certificate, that was my ass. So I kept them in my toolbox under lock and key.
So that is, the white one goes to the customer?
White one goes to the customer and you keep the other copy. Okay?
I have a question. What if you're doing the inspection, you find that the brakes are top notch, don't find anything, it passes, but it fails something on the brake, on the lamp inspection, do you give them the brake cert? Or?
You can.
Okay.
You can. So you could do that. What I would recommend is hold off. Talk to them first and see if they want to do the lamp repair. If they don't, then just let them know, okay, cool. Your vehicle passes for half the portion. But since you don't want to do that portion here, you got to fix that. And I can't give you anything until you bring it back, and then I'll re-inspect and recertify the whole thing.
And we charge them again.
So you don't write the certificates up until...
I wouldn't, because then it's going to be, why is one issued and then the other one's issued 4 days later?
Oh, okay, so it's just best that if one fails, you say, hey, you need to get this fixed.
Yeah.
And then you get everything else after you re-inspect it, they go and do the...
Yeah.
But when it comes back, you have to go through the whole thing again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you charge again.
Yeah, that's why the best thing is you tell them, if I don't fix it here, dude, it's gonna cost you a shitload of money because I'm gonna charge you today and I'm gonna charge you when you bring it back.
You gotta go through the whole thing.
I gotta go through the whole inspection all over again.
Can't
Okay?
just do one? Let's say they already discussed the brakes. and they don't break
You
out.
can. The problem is more than likely they're gonna go look for the 40-minute guy, right? So now it's your name and the 40-minute guy on the same car. See what I'm saying? So then I know how these fuckers work. They're gonna assume both of you guys did something to come together to fucking do that little evil plan of passing the fucking car. So don't give them any ammunition to come after you. The best thing is, you know what, bro? You don't want to fix it here? Go fix it. Bring it back to me, and I'll redo the inspection.
But you just did the whole inspection, you're gonna waste your time? Or-
Charge them. That's why I charge. Charge them for failing it. If you go and go fix it, bring it back to me. I'm charging you again and re-inspect it.
You're charging them the
Whole inspection.
It just passes one?
Yeah. Because I inspected both.
Charge them the same thing?
Same thing. Yep. Yes, sir.
If you pass the brake but not the lamp, will you
give it a certificate?
I wouldn't, because like I was telling him, they can go somewhere else to the guy that's gonna just sign it off, and then it's now your name and the guy who signed it off on the same car. So that's the only reason why I would say no. For your own safety, because they're gonna go find that one guy that's just gonna sign it off.
You have to put in the invoice though, right? They say, like he said, the lamp passed it, but the brake fell. You have to put it on the invoice?
Yeah.
Like instead of the lamp?
Yeah, and be as specific as possible. Everything that failed, document it.
And the brake that fell?
Brake inspection passed, customer declined repair on lamp. Vehicle will return once lamp corrections are corrected and vehicle will be re-inspected. Usually to keep them cool, what you could do is tell them this. Today you just got to pay me for the brake inspection. When you bring it back, you're only going to pay me for the lamp inspection, and I'll certify both.
But I won't get mad at the shop that say that you didn't issue a certificate of the lamp?
That's why you want to work on your wording. So try to keep your customer happy and informed, but at the same time try to hold it off. If you can't pull it off, then give them the shirt.
So you're not going to put up a sign that says, I'm not going to give you...
Yeah, you're not going to put up a sign, you're not going to make it public, but you're going to try to keep it in-house. Because I know how people are, and I know how there's still shops out there that will just sign it off. And it's going to happen, and then you're going to be involved. If some shit happens, it's your name and the other guy who signed it off. So to avoid that situation, that's why you try to make it as peaceful as possible so the customer's okay with you doing it.
Oh, so that's like if you sign one and then they go to another one and have somebody just under the table right off. And
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah, so, and then the car gets in an accident, now they're coming after both of you. Because of that dumb fuck.
You were saying you would only charge, you would tell them I'll only charge you for the brake?
Yeah, so try to make it fair for them, right? You got to remember, just because you have a listed price for $200 doesn't mean it's always $200. Okay, if it's $200, you can tell them, look, bro, it's passing for brakes, but it's failing for lamps. You don't want to fix it here, that's okay. Pay me the brakes today. When you bring it back for the lamp inspection, you're only going to pay the lamp inspection, and I'll certify both.
But you are at that moment not responsible for anything because you are not giving the...
Because you haven't given the
I'm not
cert.
trying at you being...
Yeah.
Any...
And if you do it that way, usually they're pretty cool about it. Versus, you know what, man, I'm going to charge you $200 today, you bring it back to me, it's another $200, and I ain't giving you shit today. And that's usually going to end up getting a phone call to the water field office, and they're going to come check you out. So try to keep it cool with them, okay?
So does that mean you're filling out the certificate?
No.
Or break and then holding off on
I
it?
would not fill it out because your date's on it, and it's better just not fill it out until you do both inspections. Unless they only come for a brake inspection, then yeah, once it's all ready, just sign it off. Okay?
So there would be vehicles that would be specifically about...
Yeah, I've had some.
Would be brake and lamp or just brake or lamp?
Yeah, you got to ask them. I've had some that just came in for a brake inspection.
That wouldn't be a red flag for you?
No.
What if they told you, oh, I got my lamps done somewhere else, can I do my brakes here?
Then that'd be like kind of like, why?
Why, yeah.
Yeah, try to find out. Like, well, what happened over there? How come they didn't want to do it over there?
Well, you never said this to you.
They're out of certificate.
Yeah, then be just like, huh, that's kind of fucking weird. Okay. All right, so going back to this one. What's a service brake? Unless you drive a big rig, you don't have one, right? So you should never check that one off. So if the bar comes out to look at your certificate book and they see service brake checked off, they're going to start talking to you.
Wait, what's the service brake?
That's for big rigs. That's that big yellow button that they got to release the pressure to release the brakes on the big rigs. Parking brake. Do we have a parking brake?
Yeah.
That could be checked off. Lining and shoes. Do we have those? Okay. Drums and rotors. All right. Warning device system. What's that? All right. Anti-lock brake system. You guys just told me it was that though.
That could be the ECS, the traction control.
Warning device system.
Warning device system is actually for big rigs. Ours is anti-lock brake systems.
the warning device is
Emergency stopping system. That would be for a trailer, right?
Yeah.
That would be our switch on our emergency stop, okay? Air vacuum gauge. Do we have one of those?
No.
Breakaway device.
No.
That's trailers, right? Check valve.
No.
Okay, this is where it gets kind of tricky. This is a gray area. Do we have a check valve anywhere on our braking system?
Yes.
Where?
Oh, the vacuum.
Vacuum brake booster, okay? But they're not asking that. They're asking for vacuum or air-operated brakes on a big rig. So you're not checking that. Air governor.
Nope.
Connections. Yeah. And a safety valve. We don't have that either, okay? Then, type of vehicle, passenger, SUV, whatever, the weight. Then you're gonna get it up to 20 miles an hour, slam on the brakes, and you gotta write down the distance it took to stop, right?
25 feet, is that?
Okay?
So what are considered SUVs and sedans and what the hell?
Same like smog.
Huh?
Same like smog.
So you put it as like small.
Yeah. Except in smog, we consider SUVs as trucks and vans as trucks. Here, it's an SUV.
So service brake, no.
If it's a mini SUV, SUV.
Connectors, you said no, right?
Parking brake.
Connections, yes.
So service brake, parking brake.
You're gonna guesstimate.
5999.
Yeah. You can still do that.
Well, parking brake is, well, that's the,
Parking brake is us. That's a regular parking brake.
so the one that we won't be serving will be
The
a
service brake, yeah.
And
Service brake, warning, emergency, vacuum, breakaway, check valve, air governor, and safety valve. Then you're gonna sign here the date you issued it, your license number, and your station ARD.
Do we break inspect the newer car with the ADAS?
Yeah, they're not requiring us to do ADOS on them yet.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
we could do it.
It's coming. Yeah, so next time you guys recertify, you need to know ADOS.
Like the 2019 Ford or,
Yeah,
we could do it.
ADOS has been around since 2010.
But it's gonna be on a computer then, not a certificate.
Yeah, the certificates haven't been updated. They're gonna. I told you guys about that, right? That bar's gonna update certificates to online, kind of like the DAT. Okay, so
Any difference though? Are they gonna be better?
yeah, it's gonna be easier for us, and then it's gonna be get rid of the dirty guys, the 40-minute guys, because they're gonna be watching the moment that you open up your.
They're doing fingerprints soon, I think that's.
Yeah, they're gonna do fingerprint stuff. That's a whole different ballgame though.
it's a breakaway device,
That'd be for a trailer.
and we'll be checking it out.
If you're doing a trailer, yes.
Are you gonna show the lab?
It looks the same. I don't have a copy of one. That's the problem. If not, I would show it to you guys.
Is it not in the handbook?
It's not in the handbook.
What's this?
There's a break one. Oh yeah, it's right there. Oh. You guys have it.
I just focused it.
I guess what I did, I put the wrong one in.
The safety valve, I just want to know. Safety valve.
That's not for us. That's for the pressure relief on big rigs. All right, let's finish off some tail light stuff so we can do some measurements and get you guys out of here. Vehicles are required to have 2 tail lamps. All vehicles registered after January 1st, 1958. That's a question on the state test. After January 1st, 1958, all vehicles are required to have 2 tail lamps. Trailers that are less than 30 inches wide that are made after July 23rd of 1973 can have 1 center-mounted tail light. That is a fucking question on the state test.
Huh?
A trailer that's less than 30 inches wide can have 1 center-mounted brake light. Okay? 30 inches. Small. Okay, that's 72. I think that's, yeah. Little power washer trailer. Or a generator trailer.
It was made in 1972.
And then you got to find out if it was made after July 23rd of 1973. Okay? Tail lamps.
That could be after.
After. The question doesn't have anything to do with the date. They're just asking you the width. So a trailer is 30 inches wide. Center light can be mounted center of the trailer as long as it's 30 inches or less in width. Okay? Tail lamps must be visible from 500 feet beginning January 1st of 1969.
Before.
Okay? Before, sorry. After that, 1,000 feet. Okay, so if you get a car that comes in and you're doing a braking lamp inspection on 1968, tail lights are visible from 500 feet. If you get a 1969, it's 1,000 feet.
We're not using aimers on.
You're not using aimers and you're not measuring it. Okay, it's basically hit the brakes. Can I see this shit? Cool. That's about it, right? Tail lamps mounted at a height of 15 inches to 72 inches from the ground. And tail lamps must be equal height. That's a question on the state test. They're going to tell you that there's a vehicle got rear-ended and you got 2 headlights and they're within 15 to 72 inches. But they're not equal. Does the car pass or fail? The car fails. Both lights need to be equal and then same distance. Okay?
I have a question. So you know, like the Corvette, like the C6, they have 4 tail lights,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them's opposite the belt, right?
Yeah.
Even though it only requires 2?
The other ones are gonna be running lights?
No, tell it. Yeah.
But you have 4 of them.
All 4 will light up.
All 4 light up, so yeah, it's gonna be a fail. So all 4 of them gotta be lit when you step on the brake.
So
2 lamps.
That would include the third brake lamp with them.
If it has it. If it has a third brake lamp, where?
No, that's tail lamp.
No, that's just a tail lamp. Yeah, no, there's no measurement for that one. 2 lamps are required on vehicles made or registered after January 1st of 1958. Stop lamps must be mounted 15 to 72 inches. Stop lamps must be the same level on one on the right, one on the left. Okay? Stop lamps. These are 2 questions. Required after January 1st of 1979 have to be red in color. Before January 1st of 1979 could be red or amber. Okay? Commercial vehicles may not emit amber to the rear. Stop lamps must be visible from 300 feet during the day. Stop lamps must be visible from 500 feet, and stop lamps must be activated by the brake pedal.
So no button on the dash?
Nope, and a toggle switch, nope, that ain't working either.
So wait, I thought it was 1,000 feet, or is that just for trading?
That's a tail lamp. That's your running lights.
Oh, okay.
Your stop lamp is only 500.
Commercial vehicle may
So,
use amber.
so that's terminology, okay?
That's the third one. Commercial vehicle may use amber to the rear.
Yeah, no orange lights to the rear on a commercial vehicle. So if you guys are driving behind a big rig today, pay attention to the lights in the back. They're going to be red, right?
Sometimes some of them are off.
Some are what?
They're off.
Yeah.
I drove down like a...
And then they're driving and they hit a bump and they flicker back on. That's a fail.
What about all those big rigs that have all the extra lights, like blue, fucking...
That's a fail. They just haven't got pulled over.
The amber one? Oh.
Okay, so right here, this brought up a valid point. Stop lamp is your brake light. Tail lamp is the whole light, okay? So your tail lamp needs to be visible from 1,000 feet. Your stop lamp is 500 feet, okay? You need to remember those terms because they're going to give you a question that says, on a stop lamp, how many feet must you be able to see the light from? 500. On a tail light, it's 1,000.
But it depends whether it's night or day, right?
Okay?
Yeah, but they both say stop lamps.
But they're both stop lamps. So if it's a stop lamp, if it's daytime, it's 300. Nighttime, 500. If it's a tail lamp, it's 1,000 no matter what.
So that's talking about the whole thing.
Okay? All right? Key words. These are the key words that I was talking about the other day.
Is that your handwriting?
Nah. Picture I found on Google. It's a Jeep. It's probably full of cancer because it comes from New York. Supplemental stoplight must emit red light. What is a supplemental stoplight?
The third brake.
Third light. Okay? Supplemental stoplight must be mounted rear of the driver's seat at least 15 inches from the ground to the center of the light. Notice there's no max. So if it has a supplemental light or a third light, it has to be at least 15 inches from the ground. No max. Okay? So obviously, if you have a car and the third light's right here, okay, I'm 6 feet tall. So is that more than 15 inches? So does that pass? Okay? You're going to get a question that says you get a truck that comes in and it had a third light, but it's not there anymore. What do? Fail. The law says if it had one, it needs to have it. If it didn't, it doesn't matter. If it had it, it has to have it. Make sense? Okay?
Truck comes in, has a third brake light, but has a camper shell that does not.
Fail.
Okay.
Because you can't see it. And it had it. Came with it. License plate light must be visible from 50 feet. License plate lamp must be white in color, and license plate lamp either the tail lamp or separate lamp to illuminate the license plate. They used to have a question, I don't know if they still have it, that said a car comes in for a brake and lamp inspection and has a lit license plate frame white in color. Does that pass or fail? Passes. What does that law say? License plate lamp, either tail lamp or separate lamp to illuminate the license plate. So if I have a lit license plate frame, isn't that legally a separate lamp? Is it white in color? Does it pass? Yes, it does.
But there are some that are white in color, but when you apply the brake, it turns red.
Yeah, that's a fail.
Okay.
Has to be white in color.
At all times.
Okay? At all times. Backup lamps are required after January 1st of 1969, and they must emit a beam visible from 75 feet. So your backup lights need to be visible from 75 feet. This is why you need a helper. Have them go through the gear selector, throw it in reverse, you check both lights. Do they work? Yeah, cool, pass. Okay? Any questions? Tomorrow we're going to do way more of these, okay? More shit for you guys to memorize.
Really quick, I've seen cars with the, with the fog light collars, but there's cars that don't come for the factory with fog lights.
Okay.
But some of the people put those fog lights just for the looks, but there's no wires in the back, no connection, nothing.
That would be a fail.
Okay.
Would it be a fail or?
So they added them because they're added, they need to work.
Yeah,
So that's a fail.
even if the car doesn't come.
Take them off and put it back to stock and put the covers back on and I'll pass it.
Wait, do the halos need to work on the car?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though they're daytime running?
Or they're
Well, if it's a halo that's on constantly, it needs to work. If it's a daytime running light, you need to bypass it to make them come on, and if it doesn't work, it's a fail. Because that halo's a daytime running, so that needs to be on. And if it's not on, it's bad. And the reason why they probably haven't replaced it, because like Audi, you have to buy the whole unit. It's like 2 Gs.
Program.
Yeah.